Hello. How's everyone? I haven't had caffeine yet, so we're gonna be drinking my nice water drop beverage. While we yap for a little bit. And then we will do tier list, but might as well turn on the button, you know? I was a skill cap guy, I guess I'm not anymore, really. We're kind of retired from league stuff. Yeah, gotta start with the yap, man. Never a bad thing. The go live button, or I guess the scene switch button more accurately, instead of just having the starting soon screen on for longer. Because like I could have the starting soon screen on and like have my caffeine and not yap, or we could just yap. What mod are you using? It is Slay the Relics. It is just a cosmetic mod basically for people on Twitch to be able to mouse over relics in my deck and see what's in it. So it doesn't affect gameplay at all. California might be a bit, not gonna lie. But yeah, basically, like, we used a lot of mods in Spire 1 that pretty much did the same thing. Like, now it's in the game that you can draw on the map, but in Spire 1 we didn't have that, so we had a mod to let you do that. We had the same, like, Slay the Relics mod. We had some, like, funny cosmetic mods that some people used. Not sure. Is it doing a silent in the week in the newest patch? I'm not sure yet. I need to play more runs. That's what I was going to do today. I was going to do some silent overexplain just to walk through my thought process because I'm still learning on the new patch. I'm sure they're going to nerf Aeon Glass, which is kind of sad. Like, I'm having fun trying to figure out the puzzle of this patch because it did make the game a lot harder and more interesting, I should say. Which is why we're doing multiplayer tier list today, because I don't think they're going to really change multiplayer very much. They said their focus is not really on multiplayer. And now I've actually played multiplayer, so I can feel good about commenting on it. Yeah, multiplayer harder would be cool. But I do think that multiplayer serves a very important function of getting new players into the game. And so having it be carryable by a good player while like your friends are learning makes sense. So I don't really care as much about that. I think they could add maybe more ascension levels that make it harder. What metric? I'll get into it when we actually start the tier list. But my assumption, maybe this is a hot take, all multiplayer is easier than single player. 2-player is easier than single player. Assuming like equal skill players, right? So like if I clone myself twice and play multiplayer, that's gonna win more often than me playing single player. Yeah, it mitigates variance. That's a huge deal. I hear a lot of people saying that 2-player is hard or harder than single player, and that's just not true. I think people are bad at playing multiplayer, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a guide. I'm gonna do the tier list, but this is gonna be like half of a guide basically. For this is gonna be like multiplayer exclusive cards. But I will go into like a PowerPoint guide probably off stream and make a video about kind of general concepts of how to play multiplayer and how to make it easier than single player. You don't need to force. It's kind of like single player. You don't have to force strategies. It's just that like forcing strategies is an easy way to win because you're more likely to see this stuff. But I don't think that's like technically the highest win percent. Like I don't think anyone's grinding multiplayer to have highest win percentage because you should really never lose. Like if you watch our speed runs, we're playing literally 14-minute runs and we've lost one run. We are not thinking, okay? We're just like zooming through it and we're not losing at all on A10. So like if you get good players together and people are not doing like really bad stuff, egregious mistakes, you're gonna win every run. So it's not like, it's not super interesting, I think, to try and go for like max win rate on multiplayer, but I know a lot of people are struggling, so that's like kind of the idea, is like some basic concepts that should help make it a lot easier. But yeah, today will just be like a short tier list because there's not that many multiplayer exclusive cards, and I will go over some cards like instead of doing a tier list for every single character again, because most of the cards don't change at all in multiplayer. But there's some like big standouts like Piercing Whale, right? That gets a lot better. Like there's just a couple of cards per character that I want to talk about. I don't need to talk about every single card again, but it will be easier, I think, in PowerPoint format to go over the big changes, like the big evaluation differences, and maybe like why that is, and some concepts of like how to deck build in multiplayer, because it is a bit different. Yeah, Regen's really cool in multi. Yeah, people mostly play multiplayer to just have fun, right? It needs to be challenging enough to still be interesting, but it doesn't need to be like the same level of challenge that I want single player to be. And it's definitely not right now. I think it's like fine right now. It's like easy enough that players can sort of just play A10 and be like fine. I'm not exactly sure, like, so I've played with like other players that don't really play Spire at all, like 3 other players that don't play Spire, and we're able to win on A10 just with me being the only experienced player. I'm not sure what it's like if you just kind of have like 4 people who like sort of casually play Spire playing multiplayer, because I do think having one person that just like hard carries, like I can build a deck that scales high enough to beat a boss that has 2000 HP, right? Like you guys saw in the multiplayer tourney, I just went infinite. That just beats the boss, right? So if I know that I need to do that, I can just hard carry. But I don't think the average person's doing that. It's Hammer Time in here. I do love Hammer Time. I'll make sure we didn't miss it. One sec. I think we missed it. Hopefully we didn't miss anything else. I want to make sure that we didn't before I get into it. Two-player random is harder than single player? No, absolutely no way. 0% chance. Has nothing to do with the characters. Every combination of characters is stronger in multiplayer. Like the characters have nothing to do. Their synergy with each other have nothing to do with why multiplayer is easier at all. Multiplayer is easy because your variance is a lot less. I wish there was a way to filter by multiplayer only. But I want to say I don't know. Maybe when I do it, people will be like, oh, you missed this. Everyone has like a handful of multiplayer exclusive cards, right? I don't think Clad really has much. They have this. And is that it? That's part of the idea, but also your draw order as well. Oh, tank, yeah. Okay, hold up. I need to fix a bit of this. I think we missed some cards when making the template here. Maybe good that I did this early. Why is there no filter for this, by the way? You would think. I think every character has like 2. Is that wrong? I think that's correct. Okay, I think we got him then. What about colorless? There's like a lot of colorless ones, but I think we got those. And I don't think there's any... I don't think there's any, event only... Yeah, also, you don't get actually punished for dying. Like, you die and you just come back. Like, you're allowed to brick. Like, it's just... There's a million reasons why it's easier. Really. Yeah, okay, I think I got them. I think we're missing, like, 2. And I got it. Yeah, you can definitely do that. But again, this is why I think when people like when people think that the multiplayer is not easier, they're not really abusing what makes multiplayer easy. They're just like playing the game like normal, and they're not thinking about how to exploit the very obvious flaws in the balancing. Because yeah, like Waterfall Giant, as long as one person has HP, you win. You have one Necrobinder, you win. But it is fun, so that's the important thing, right? Golden Axe. Yeah, we will talk about... So, maybe I should just pull up the tier list so Suki has this footage for... She can clip this together. 1 second, guys. Let me make sure that this is, this looks acceptable. This is probably pretty good. We can rename tiers and whatnot. I think this is all the multiplayer cards exclusive. But there's a lot of stuff. So, okay. 2 things to clarify here. We are going to do multiplayer tier listing. This is only going to be the multiplayer exclusive cards, not just the cards that are really good in multiplayer. I will do a whole separate PowerPoint guide, whatever, that talks about which cards are going to be different in evaluation based on single player and multi. So these are going to be the cards that you only see when you're playing multiplayer and sort of how to think about them, and maybe give a framework for evaluating what makes something strong in this game mode, because it is very different from single player. Second, I waited on this for a long time, even though it was the most requested thing probably on the entire channel and in Twitch chat. This was like spammed in like every video, like every tier list ever. What is multiplayer? What is multiplayer? What is multiplayer? One, I thought it was going to be really hard to make, and this is why I'm splitting it up into 2 different things. But 2, I didn't play multiplayer that much. And now I played a lot of multiplayer, 1 for fun, 2 for the Frost Prime tournament, which we just did, and I was playing with players that also like weren't super top level players, right? And got, I guess, a more balanced view of what the average multiplayer experience looks like, because my experience with multiplayer before this was playing with only really, really good players. And that made it so we literally never lost, and we didn't really have to care about anything, because I think as a whole, multiplayer is easier to win than single player if you are abusing the things that make it so. The whole purpose of this, or the idea, is to make it easier or more apparent what those things are and what are the really broken, overstated things, because there's a lot of them. Also, we did multiplayer speed running. So I played a lot of runs with really good players, playing very fast, and kind of got an idea of how often we could win doing that, and also what sort of strategies and ideas work. Because you can be extremely degenerate in multiplayer and sort of brute force ideas just because of the way that multiplayer smooths out variance. And what I mean by that is really that your draw orders are more fixed. Certain cards are more easy to play because they have synergies that work with other players, or you can rely on someone else to draw their Vuln before you get your Vuln payoff, right? And in single player, drawing your Bash into Molten Fist doesn't happen every single time you load up your game. When you have 4 decks all trying to do that, it is very likely, because you only need 1 person out of 4 to draw Vuln, that you're going to get it. That's just one example, right? This works for all debuffs, a lot of other strategies, but that's a core idea behind why multiplayer is a lot easier, and why certain strategies are way better. This is a win rate tier list. We're not going to do speedrunning tier list. Speedrun tier list is like its whole separate thing. Like, we can talk about that maybe. But as a whole, this is really just a discussion board to talk about what I think is important in multiplayer if you're just trying to win every run, which I don't think there's that many people trying to do, but like, you get my point, right? So, I don't know. I guess we can just get into it. Let me clear my throat. So, hello everyone in chat. Oh my god. Sorry. Yeah, and there's just some cards in single player that are a lot worse than multiplayer, and they get much better because of certain interactions. We're not going to talk about that today, as previously mentioned, but I will get to that in a separate video. Okay, so I think every character has 2 multiplayer exclusive cards that you cannot see in single player, and then there's a bunch of colorless cards that are only available in multiplayer. So like half of these are colorless cards, and 2 per each character. I don't really think it particularly matters what your team composition is. I think multiplayer, just the way that it works, is going to reward you for having more people and more decks and more potions and seeing more stuff. And that is the biggest reason why it's powerful. There are obviously really funny things like doing all 4 clouds like you saw in the speedruns that we were doing. Or trying to force like poison accelerant. With 4 players, you're going to see that like key piece way more often, and in single player, you can't rely on like someone seeing accelerant. When it's like a 1 card thing that you're trying to find, it's really hard. But I'm gonna just ballpark average team comps, like I hit random and go. And we did do a lot of that in the Frost Prime tournament practice. We hit random comps and played, and we won every run. So I don't really particularly think it matters what your team comp is. It's more so just, do you understand the core principles behind making multiplayer busted? So let's go ahead and start with each character, their individual cards, and then get to colorless. So starting out with Demonic Shield, 0 energy, lose 1 HP, give another player block equal to your block, exhaust. This has a couple of really important keywords on it. There's one that's lose HP, which procs all of Ironclad's self-harm synergies, right? As well as exhaust. So you're procking something like Feel No Pain, Dark Embrace, whatever. This can often be a really, really easy card to just kind of play. And what you can read this as is really just 0 energy gives someone like 10 to 15 block on average. Even if this is just giving like 5 or something, it's still okay. One thing about multiplayer, and especially as you scale players and go to like 4 players, it's very likely that someone's going to brick. Bricks don't happen every single hand, but when you're drawing 4 times the amount of hands, they happen more frequently. And this is basically covering the one person that is bricking. So you can sort of ask around and see who has, the worst hand or can't block, or maybe has powers they really want to play, and you can help them get set up. So if you're able to coordinate, this card gets better. If your group is not coordinating or not slowing down and allowing for this kind of discussion, this kind of card's going to get worse. So obviously depends on how sweaty your group is trying to be. Overall, I think it also is a card that relies on you drawing block in your hand, of course, or having a deck that is going to generate a lot of block. I don't particularly think this card is exceptional. There's a lot of more, and we'll get to them, multiplayer cards that are just way more overstated. One thing that Ironclad really struggles with in single player is just not having access to weakness. So in multiplayer, you kind of have that covered by some other character, or even just other clads having more chances at finding uppercut, or colorless cards like Shockwave. And you don't really need as much weakness because oftentimes one person can fully cover it. Having more people have weakness is a way of covering draw order problems. But Clad really struggles to block in single player just because of not having access to weak. And that's not really a problem. And so doing something like having Blood Walls and playing Demonic Shield makes a lot of sense. Clad also has really easy access to a lot of draw with like Pommel Strikes and Burning Packs. And in multiplayer, it's a lot easier to pick said cards, like draw cards, that in single player would be kind of punishing. Like in single player, I can't just slam Burning Pact on floor 1 and expect to like be able to get through the act safely. Depending on the map layout. Like obviously you can take Burning Pact, but it's not an every run thing. And you're allowed to be greedier in multiplayer with drafting because of the way that allies can cover your deck's weaknesses. So one key concept that we abused a lot is having someone overscale. So you can sort of have like team roles determined after a couple of card rewards and seeing what people have in their decks. But one idea would be like having one person force infinite. And that's going to cover your late game scaling. And so in like the Frost Prime Invitational, I forced infinite to cover my team's like boss scaling in their decks because their decks were not really capable of beating the Act 3 bosses, right? So you can really hard cover for that and then have people pick things that are going to allow you to just sort of turbo through your deck and really not do anything else. Like if I am just playing Burning Pact into Bloodletting into exhausting down my whole deck in single player, I'm expecting to take a lot of damage, right? Because I'm not really blocking while doing that. And so you can cover someone else's idea of either having a deck that plays a lot of powers or goes infinite or needs to do something that's not necessarily contributing to short-term progress in a fight or front load. And this is helping to cover that. So really, if you have someone performing that role, Demonic Shield gets a lot better. I think overall, this is just sort of like a very average card for me. I don't think it's like jammed into every deck. I'm not super happy to see it, but if I know that someone's doing something like that, this is going to be something that works. Or if you have like an early unmovable, or you have relics like Anchor or Horncleat, whatever, that are going to produce a lot of block for you unconditionally, you can sort of cover people's brick draws and it allows them to draft differently. So I think a really core concept with multiplayer is allowing your teammates to do stuff like that, which takes a lot of coordination, which is why I think like if you aren't abusing that idea or abusing these ideas in general, that multiplayer is not going to feel much easier to you, and which is why people feel like 2-player is harder than single player, which I wholly disagree with. Let's go ahead and move on to tank. 1 energy, take double damage from enemies. Allies take half damage from enemies. So you can sort of read this as basically, how do I explain this? So there is 4 times the amount of damage coming in to your party overall, right? When you play tank, if you have 4 players, which I'm assuming you do, 3 people take half, you take double. So that's kind of like 1.5 subtracted, and then you are adding 1. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is how I'm reading this card in terms of total damage incoming. So if like the total damage incoming is 4, you are basically slightly reducing it at massive risk to yourself. Essentially, this card is really only good if you are capable of blocking way too much every turn. But overall, I think it's just putting a lot of stress and not really doing enough to help your allies just completely avoid damage. You're better off playing something like Demonic Shield for the most part to cover one person who bricks, instead of sometimes like basically all the allies need to build a deck that is capable of blocking at least somewhat, because until you draw tank, they still have to do their normal job of blocking the enemy, right? Even if you're building around this idea. And so their decks still need to be able to block, otherwise they're just taking chip until you try to draw into this thing. And then once you do draw into it, there's a lot of stress on you to actually cover, and not everyone is going to be getting full value out of this. So like if someone's capable of blocking 10 or 20 on their turn, and you're reducing their incoming damage to like 5, they don't get any value out of that, right? Unless they're actually getting value out of having damage reduced, it's not doing anything for you, and it's just making you die faster. For barricade style stuff, which was brought up in chat here, this is really bad because barricade wants to be able to store block, and this is basically saying you're never going to store block, it's all going to go away. This is really, really bad. I think like overall it's just not a big enough reduction. If this just said like all your allies take no damage from enemies and you take double or something, it could be something. It can work with Diadem, sure. Very, very niche, but overall I think there's just better things to be doing on this character in particular, and blocking in general is a little weird. Like a core concept of multiplayer that's very important is to all sort of have decks that want to play fights for similar amounts of time if you want everyone to be living and doing stuff, or having very predetermined roles. And what tank is doing is essentially allowing your teammates to play long, but you have to play very short because this is a lot of pressure. And it's very often that you're just going to be taking damage instead of actually being able to block here. Just kind of weird. I think a better way of mitigating damage in multiplayer is just putting weakness on the enemy or having like piercing wail or debilitates. And so this becomes really not all that great. I think overall, you're just never really picking this, especially if you see it early. It would be like a late game thing that's very, very niche, almost never. Okay, let's go to silence. Flanking, 2 energy. The enemy takes double attack damage from other players this turn. Also, I don't know if I read out these cards earlier, so I'll retroactively read out tank so you can edit this. Takes us 1 energy, take double damage from enemies. Allies take half damage from enemies. And Demonic Shield says 0 energy, lose 1 HP, give another player block equal to your block, exhaust. I'm not sure if I did that, but you know, we'll cover our bases. Okay, so flanking upgrades to 1 energy, and similar math to tank. I think this one's gonna be easier to understand, but the way that I evaluate this and sort of the framework that I have is, let's say I spend my entire turn playing flanking, or I just don't do any damage after playing flanking. There are 3 players still doing damage, okay? So normally it'd be 4. Now we go to 3. And then because it says double, that goes to 6. So your damage output basically goes from 4 players to 6 players, which is a 1.5 increase in damage. And that's not even fully true math because you can still do damage after flanking is played, especially if it's upgraded to 1 energy. But the way that you evaluate a lot of these multiplayer cards should be the total amount of output across the entire team. And most of the time, people should be building decks basically the same as they are in single player, with a few exceptions. Like most of the engines and ideas in single player are still going to be really good in multiplayer, with a couple of huge standouts. And so most decks are capable of doing damage and blocking and sort of like doing their own thing, right? Flanking is just amplifying that with like very little hoops to work through. And gets very, very absurd very quickly and stacks with other multiplicative damage multipliers. So like Vuln, for example, or Knockdown, which we'll get to, and other copies of Flanking. It just gets really, really insane. This is like basically one of the best ways to scale damage inside of your party. So I think this is very, very easy. S tier doesn't really need to be talked about very much. If you just turn this into percentages compared to tank, it's like 6 times better at doing the job it's trying to do, essentially. And yeah, there's another thing. This is a very good point. Good first message. Where this is kind of wrapping back into what I was talking about earlier, where all the decks want to try and go for a certain amount of time. And you kind of want to match pace with your allies, because essentially if one deck is trying to like go really fast and kill and not block at all, which is a deck style that does happen in single player, but then you have like 3 Necrobinders that are all just trying to sit there and overblock and store all CHP, and that takes like 8 turns. What's going to happen is like the guy that's trying to go really fast is just going to die because he can't actually kill the enemy. Something like Flanking, when you can get lethal a turn earlier, means you don't have to block anymore. And so you're essentially just reducing block requirements on allies and opening up potential, or I guess closing low roll potential of someone bricking a turn where they can't block, because you're just 1 turn shorter in the fight, or less than 1 turn, or more than 1 turn, I should say. So yeah, basically killing the enemy faster is just really good at blocking. And it means that the deck building requirements or deck checks for other players don't have to be met as rigidly. Next up, we have Sneaky. Sly. Whenever another player attacks an enemy, gain 1 block. This upgrades to 2 block, and the energy cost is 2. Really, this is 0 energy most of the time, because it has Sly on it. This is kind of like Giga Afterimage. And essentially, after this is played, what it does is it allows you to stop playing block and just focus on dealing damage, right? Your teammates are essentially going to cover block for you. And when you can cheat energy in such a way, again, it helps your allies block because now all of your damage is being done and you get out of the fight sooner. There are other cards that do this sort of job better, but it is still really strong. Like, I think the strongest thing in multiplayer, especially with 4 players, which is what I'm assuming in this list, is when you can do something for everyone because you're getting like 4 times the value or 3 times the value out of a card, compared to this where it's sort of a selfish thing and one person's getting a lot of value. But if you have something like this, it can help you do a lot of damage because now all your energy gets spent on like doing draw and lining up your combos and playing the big broken damage cards because other people are able to block for you, right? It's not quite as good as something like Flanking, but it is a block engine for you that oftentimes gets played for free. It's very, very easy. I think this is pretty much easy A, and does have some really cool interactions with other multiplayer cards that we will get to later. If you get cross-class combos, it can also be interesting. Like, imagine this into Demonic Shield, and you're kind of paying off other people for blocking. Again, multiplayer gets a lot better with coordination when you can sort of sync up combos like this and have ideas of like, okay, how is every person in this party going to be blocking? And maybe one person is doing a lot of heavy lifting for like one player in particular for that person to force infinite or do some sort of game-winning strategy that's very greedy and slow. Yeah, just kind of an interesting card overall. Okay, next up, like guess. 0 energy, another player adds 1 random colorless card to their hand. This upgrades to an upgraded colorless card, I believe. For these sorts of things, it doesn't really matter who gets this card. Like, if someone has a lot of energy, it's obviously better. But in terms of evaluating this sort of card, you can evaluate it similarly to reading what a card would say if it said, you add the random colorless card to your hand. So when it's only one person, it's very easy, I think, to evaluate because you have a frame of reference for single player evaluations. But overall, just read this as like it was acting as single player, and it'll make it easier to figure it out. You can choose who gets this, so it is easy to say like, okay, who has extra energy this turn, or maybe who bricked their hand and can't do anything meaningful. Like, let's say the enemy is not attacking and they drew all block. You can largesse them to give them a card that maybe they can play with their excess energy, right? So I think it's flexible. With more players, it gets better, but not at the same rate as some of these other things. This is still really strong in 2-player as well, just because getting a random colors card for free is really good boss scaling. It's good long fight scaling, and there's a lot of broken colors cards that we will get to again that are really strong. Basically, all the multiplayer colors cards are pretty overstated for the most part. And having all the multiplayer cards in the pool when you're rolling from them is really strong. Even the solo player colorless cards get stronger in multiplayer, like Gold Axe, because it scales off of like everyone's card plays. So colorless cards were already really strong. I think multiplayer makes the colorless card pool even stronger. This is just like a generically good pickup, and it's still good in hallways. Overall, just really, really solid card. Feels pretty similar to something like Sneaky. In terms of power level for me, slightly better than Demonic Shield. I think Demonic Shield just needs a few more hoops to jump through. But again, being able to choose who gets this is the important thing. If you're not coordinating who has energy, then it's obviously a lot worse. Like if you're not playing with voice comms, this card is not going to be performing nearly as well. But yeah, works with a lot of the card creation synergy stuff. Pillar of Creation on regen to just block randomly. But colorless cards can also generate energy. And do a lot of stuff inside of fights. So yeah, really nice card overall. Next up, we have Hammer Time. Whenever you forge, all allies forge as well. This upgrades, I believe, to 1 energy. So you would read this basically as whenever I get a sword, everyone gets a sword. So what this is doing is really giving your entire party boss scaling. They don't need any sword synergies at all. Just randomly getting a sword in your hand that hits for 30 means that everyone is always going to be able to swing it at the same time. Okay. And the fact that it has retained means it works with something like flanking, where one person can play flanking and then all the swords swinging together, and that's your boss scaling damage. You would be very surprised how good just having a big attack that you can spend energy on is. And Regen oftentimes wants to be doing this overscaling role in multiplayer anyways. Like, I think as I was playing Regen, one of the strongest things I was doing is just spending a lot of energy building my sword. Because in single player, you really can't just ignore the enemies and just build your sword up, because you're not making progress. But you have 3 other players covering for that weakness, and you're allowed to just play Refined Blade every single turn and just block, and that's going to solve the fight. If your sword gets really, really big, that can be overscaling for a boss, and like in single player you might only have to do 500 damage to a boss. In multiplayer you have to do like 2,000, 3,000. And so you kind of need to go way above the ceiling. Hammer Time's just making it a lot easier to do that. Like I remember solving one run with Hammer Time plus Furnace, and everyone got value out of Furnace. And when Furnace reads Forge 24 a turn, or now with the buffs it can read even more, 28 a turn, it's a lot better. Furnace, I think in multiplayer is already like a lot better, because again, powers are easier to play. You have people covering your block for you with stuff like Demonic Shield. Fights are allowed to be a little bit more weird, where you're not doing any front load job and someone else is covering that. So this is pretty good. I think this card is like one of the better damage solves as long as you're doing some sword stuff. So probably top of A. I'm going to reserve S tier for some of the really, really absurd stuff. But yeah, I do agree with what AJ said in chat here, which is that it's easier for one person to overscale like mad. Say, for example, one defects with creative AI just going insane to beat the boss, rather than like 4 people trying to overscale and everyone bricking their deck with a bunch of powers. So if you take Hammer Time, you can essentially take this job of overscaling everyone's damage, and then people don't have to take boss damage anymore. This is the one card solve for boss damage, which is a really, really powerful role to fulfill. Okay, next up, we have Glimpse Beyond. 1 energy, all players add 3 souls into their draw pile, exhaust. So Capture Spirit does this sort of idea just for 1 player, and that is already a really good card. When you are doing this for 4 players, you're essentially saying 4 players draw 3, which is draw 12. That's insane. If you're curious about how I get the draw 3, it's because the soul takes up 1 draw from the draw 2 on the soul card. And so every soul is basically draw 1 in terms of positivity. So yeah, draw 12 is a really powerful effect. If you were just going to evaluate that for yourself, right? that's essentially just scrawl, except better. Like the way it works, like scrawl oftentimes doesn't draw 10 cards. It often draws less than that. And one player has a hard time spending energy. When you're drawing for 0 energy for a bunch of people, that is really, really crazy. Yeah, just absurd card. I think this is one of the strongest acceleration pieces in the game, essentially. Very, very easy S tier. One person playing this just makes everyone's deck function so much better. Like, everyone essentially gets... I don't remember what the relic is that does this at the start of combat, but doing that for 4 people is really, really crazy. And yeah, cross-class synergies with like exhaust on Clad is really, really strong here. Very, very crazy card. These souls also get better with player skill. So one thing I see a lot of people do, I've watched a lot of players play, and a lot of new players play now, as well with like coaching and whatnot. People tend to just spam their souls and not get full value out of them. You can leave these floating around. Like, if you spend all your energy on a turn correctly and like don't need to draw at all, you can just leave the soul floating around for your second draw cycle. So it's not just 3 draw, it's like 3 draw whenever you feel like it, and you don't always need to draw. So being able to selectively choose when you do that is really, really powerful. Okay, next, Legion of Bone, 2 energy, all players summon 6 exhaust. I believe this upgrades to summon 8. What this reads as is really all players block 6 with like barricade, right? But that essentially just says like block 24 for 2 energy, which is not a terrible rate, but it's not an absurd rate. Like, if you look at something like Impervious on Clad or Blood Wall, block 20 for 2 energy, right? Block 30 for 2 energy, block 40 for 2 energy. These sorts of cards, like, individual characters have that. One big thing about Necrobinder is that you're able to turn this barricade block into damage. And if you're playing with other characters, they can't do that. This is essentially just block. If you're playing like all Necro or something, this obviously gets a lot better. But most of the time, I think this is not going to be like an absurd card. It's not weak, but again, we will get to cards later that are basically direct analogs to this that are just superior in almost every way. Overall, like, when you're playing something like this, because it's not blocking a lot for you, you are more likely to take chip playing it, which makes the reward actually just less, right? You're gonna, as the player who probably has Asti, lose Asti HP that neuters your damage, right? By playing something like this. I think this is kind of just C tier. It's not horrible, but overall, like, it's just not as heavily statted. And yeah, with less players, it just gets worse and worse. If you're playing like 2 players, this is just like really bad. Unless it's like another Necro, but still, I don't think it's great. Like, if you have like Dance Macabre, this can be better. There's ways that it can be stronger, like Intimidating Helmet, you know. Everyone's playing Necro. Like, there's a lot of weird niche interactions. I'm kind of just rating this as like the average case most of the time, where you probably are not getting the max value out of this. Let's go ahead and move on. We got Energy Surge, 1 energy, all players gain 2 energy exhaust. This upgrades to 3 energy. Again, if you're evaluating this, this is 1 energy, gain 8 energy. So essentially gain 7 energy, and that upgrades to gain 12, which is like 11. Compare that to Super Critical, which is a rare card on Defect. Holy crap. That's a lot. Especially when you have stuff like this floating around, the Glimpse Beyond. That's insane acceleration, right? This on its own is a card that Ironclad plays, called Seeing Red. Right? Like, a lot of characters just add this card in single player to their deck. And it's doing a lot more than that. So as an uncommon, yeah, easy S tier. These are like kind of the premium acceleration pieces in multiplayer, in my opinion. These two. There's some other ones that are really, really good, but these are very, very strong. Again, you'll notice these cards that are statted to give everyone something. It's really hard to balance because I think they needed to make it work in 2-player. But when you get to 4-player, it just is giving way too much value. Like, someone doesn't have to draw into this. Combine this with something like Largesses, right? Like going off randomly, or a Hammer Time, and everyone just gets to swing their swords. There's ways that you can make this really good. On a flanking turn, everyone just gets to play way more attacks, or someone gets to pop off and just set up all their powers. Like, when you have a piece like this, like a support piece like this, everyone's decks just functions so much better, and you're covering people on their bricks. Like, someone can draw all their expensive cards in one hand, and someone's like, hold up, let me find my energy surge, and now I just draw into that, play that, and then you're good. Like, it didn't matter that you bricked because I didn't. And again, when you have 4 players, it's likely one that like someone's gonna brick, but it's less likely that everyone's gonna brick. When in single player, it's either you brick or you don't. It's a coin flip, essentially. I mean, not really, but like rolling more dice is better than rolling less dice is essentially what I'm getting at. And this is a card that fixes a lot of people's decks when they do brick. Very, very strong. Compared to Ignition, the rare card, 1 energy, another player channels 1 plasma exhaust. In 2-player, way more fair. This is essentially equal to Fusion, just played on someone else, which, when you compare it to these sort of really broken cards like Energy Surge, Glimpse Beyond, Flanking, even Hammer Time, right? When you compare it to these and you're only getting 1 person extra energy, and they probably can't dual cast or multicast that Plasma Orb, which is what makes Plasma like really good, it's just not nearly as good. This is really just like kind of I sack my deck to make someone better, and we don't really want that sort of effect very often when there's so many effects that just help everyone disproportionately. It's just not overstatted in a way that I think works all that great, and it's not something like Demonic Shield where I'm not having to pay energy or like really sack. Like, this is kind of just giving someone a lot of block. Giving someone 1 energy a turn is just not nearly as good. Okay, we'll put this in like probably C. I don't think it's like actively negative like Tank is, of course. It's just sort of like not an unfair card, and I think in multiplayer you really are just looking for the unfair cards. Speaking of which, next up, Beacon of Hope, 1 energy. Whenever you gain block on your turn, other players gain half that much block. The most important thing about this card, and it is broken on its own, okay? This is completely busted on its own. But the most broken thing when you read this text is realizing that the upgrade makes it innate. And when you can make this innate, it means that every other player now gets to build their deck knowing that you are blocking for them every single turn. And so they don't have to pick block cards. They can focus all their energy on doing other stuff. And this works really nicely even in early game with any sort of deck. So the rounding on this rounds down. If you have other Beacons of Hope, right? Let's say you have 2. One person plays a defend for 5. If they have Beacon of Hope, it spills over to the second person that has it for 2. And then that blocks someone for 1. That blocks everyone for 1, right? So if multiple people have Beacon of Hope, they combine together to block for everyone. And if you have 1 point of dex, you play 1 defend for 6 and it rounds to 3 instead of rounding down, right? I guess it doesn't round, it just gives 3 block, you know what I mean? So everyone's getting 50% more value with 1 point of dex. So Smooth Stone, any footworks, so many things. Again, compare this to Tank. Like, I'd much rather have this sort of output where I play 1 block for 6 and it creates 9 extra block. So I play 1 energy block 15 after playing this. If every card in your deck reads 1 energy block 15, your deck is really good. And that's like with very little effort, right? There's a lot of cards, like even colorless cards that give 1 point of dexterity, relics. And again, in multiplayer, you walk into a chest, you see 4 relics, and you get to pick which one you want. So if someone gets a Smooth Stone, right, it's not just seeing 1 relic, you see 4 and you get to pick. You're going to see a lot more relics, and you can get Smooth Stone way easier from looking at chests, right? So there's just way easier ways to like abuse this and make this really, really broken. The innate upgrade makes it just completely absurd. I think if they were going to try to balance this, they would need to make this just upgrade to 0 energy or something, or change the numbers on it. But innate makes it way too consistent. And again, kind of the problem with something like Tank is I still have to draw into it, right? And so my teammates can't completely avoid the deck consideration of having to block. With this, they can. You can pick a little bit of block still to cover like what the Beacon of Hope player can't block you for, but the Beacon of Hope player now also gets to build their deck entirely focused on just blocking and doing nothing else and having their teammates cover for them. Just completely insane. Even in 2-player, this was insane. Like I played 2-player with Open for a little bit, and he got a Beacon of Hope early and it just completely invalidated the run basically. Like he had just I think it was just like I essentially never had to block and I was just doing the damage and he was just blocking for me the entire run. Just completely disgusting card. This is like very, very easy S tier. This is like the inverse of flanking in terms of just like this is the damage output card and this is the block card, right? It's basically doing the same thing. I think overall, dealing damage is a little bit more important in multiplayer again because of this like ending the fight a turn sooner thing is really important. And over blocking, like if other people are still blocking turns on their own, Beacon of Hope is not getting extra value, but doing extra damage is basically always extra value. Yeah, just kind of insane, like really, really gross. Next up, Believe in You. Another player gains 2 energy for 0. With 4-player, this is a lot better than 2-player. You cannot target yourself. It would be really quite good if you could. But again, this is a sort of card that characters add on their own. Like if you think about what Energy Surge is, people would add this to a single player deck. This is basically that just for one person. But again, if you have someone that's like playing really greedily and adding all the draw cards to their deck, this gets a lot better. And it also, whenever someone bricks and draws other expensive cards together, you can cover for them. So again, communication kind of important for making this better. It doesn't scale quite as crazily as Energy Surge, for example, but is still quite strong. I think this is like less hoops to jump through than Demonic Shield. So probably just better than this and probably better than Largesse as well. It's essentially like you can read Largesse as like just print a Believe in You randomly. How bad of a card would that be? You know, it wouldn't be that bad. So I think Believe in You is quite good. The fact that you can target it's really nice. It just needs some coordination. You can enable some really, really funny stuff with this as well. Next up, we have Coordinate. 1 energy, give another player 5 strength this turn. This is kind of weird. You need someone else to be able to use this 5 strength really well. And again, if you're having 2 players try to line up in 2 separate hands, a combo of like Coordinate into like Radiate or Coordinate into a Blade Dance or whatever, that gets a lot harder than just trying to play a power and do that the whole combat and never have to like draw it together. But Coordinate has this issue of not being that flexible of an effect, like compared to something like Believe in You, which is just energy. Energy is very flexible. Everyone can use it. Strength is not something that all characters can use. So it's less likely to line up. And it just overall is not increasing damage by quite the amount. Like you can sort of read this in like an average case or like maybe even a good case is like 1 energy deal 15. Like if someone's playing 3 attacks or maybe a multi-hit attack or something, if someone can like really abuse it, it's like okay, but it's really just sort of like a it's sort of just a subpar damage common. It's only temp strength, so it's not really boosting someone, and you need to actually coordinate, like similarly to the card's name. Overall, I think it's just really, really weird. Feels somewhat similar to Ignition, just a little bit worse than that. If it gave everyone 5 strength, it'd be a very good card. But like Potions, Flexpot, for example, is better because you don't need to draw Flexpot with the thing it works with. And now you're requiring you to draw this with the thing it works with. And it's not super likely that's going to happen. Like there's a lot of like things in this game that don't scale off of, or multiplayer I should be specific, that don't scale off of strength but scale off of like number of card plays instead. This is just like one of the worst ones of it. The other ones seem a lot stronger. For example, Gang Up. 1 energy, deal 5 damage, deals 5 additional damage for each time another player has attacked the enemy this turn. This upgrades to 7 additional damage, which is quite strong. And so when you compare this to something like Coordinate, 1, this is scaling off of everyone else in the party and not just scaling one person in the party. And when you get a Gang Up from like colorless card at Niao, that carries damage throughout basically the entire run, like at least first and second acts when people are still playing strikes and whatnot. It's quite powerful to be able to just say, hey guys, I have Gang Up in hand, and everyone now no longer has to worry about blocking, and it just does like 100 damage. Like everyone plays, 3 strikes on their turn. That's very realistic. So just play 3 damage cards, right? And it can also get better with stuff like Silent Shivs, which is also very common. But if you do the math on this, this is like dealing 50 damage basically in that case. And also that's just a shit ton of damage compared to something like Coordinate. So yeah, big early game damage carry. I think we're throwing this in A tier, probably above Sneaky. I really like this card, especially early game. It basically requires nothing to work. Even if one person completely bricks and doesn't play any attacks at all, the damage output is still like 1 energy deal like 35. And with Vuln, which you should basically assume that the enemy is going to have, 1 energy deal 50. And like a kind of midi case. Like, just kind of gross, right? Again, compare a card like this that is unfair scaling to a card like Coordinate that's very fair scaling, or Ignition that's very fair scaling, and you start to see why some of these cards are just so much more overstated than the other ones, and just outclass them entirely. Like, there's a pretty big divide here, I think, at C and below, where cards just kind of get a lot worse. Upper tiers, like, they're just really, really insane cards. Okay, next up, Intercept. 1 energy, gain 9 block, redirect all incoming attacks that will be dealt to another player this turn to you. This is pretty similar to Tank. So this essentially just says like double the incoming damage to you, but gain 9 block. This requires one person to literally have no block on their turn, or want to play no block on their turn, which is not always common, right? You're not increasing the total amount of damage coming into the team, but you're just moving it around and gaining 9 block, which is not a terrible effect, but it's not unfair. And it's not very often that someone is completely incapable of blocking, and you also don't have one of 8 potion slots or more to cover that. Like, it's so much easier to just have a block pot and throw it at someone. And when you have 4 players rolling potions, you're gonna have something to cover that. Like, there's a lot of ways to cover other than adding a card like this to your deck that oftentimes doesn't want to be played. This can often be negative to you because it also requires you to be over blocking by a lot, which doesn't always happen. Like, the way that the game is sort of balanced is that everyone has like block and damage thresholds per turn to meet. And when you play something like this, you're increasing your personal threshold, which is just obviously not very possible to meet all the time. Like, it's not easy for one player to block 40 in a turn, but it's pretty easy for like everyone to block like 20, right? You would need a lot of energy or really big block cards to be able to kind of like meet that output check. Just kind of strange, right? I think overall this is like C tier. It's not unfair. It's not the worst thing of all time, but it's not as imbalanced as some of these other top tiers. Okay, speaking of which, Knockdown. 3 energy attack, deal 10 damage. The enemy takes double damage from other players this turn. This is a completely unfair card, okay? If you look at flanking, it pretty much reads that for 3 energy instead of 2. But the difference here is that the upgrade goes to triple damage, which if you do the math again on like number of people doing damage, you essentially go from, if you say I play Knockdown, I pass my turn, I do 0 damage, right? You have 3 other players doing damage. Doubling goes to 6. Tripling goes to 9. When you play Knockdown, you essentially say my team is 9 players this turn. That is not balanced, okay? Damage multiplication is insane and works with stuff like Vuln, right? And other things. Works with flanking. Just completely absurd. And can combine with something like a big, hammer time sword that someone else has, or a gang up, or the flanking, or even have people play energy surge to cover you to allow you to play this, or a believe in you to allow you to play this, right? When you have a card like this in your deck and someone's running believe in you or multiple believe in yous, it gets easier for you to be able to like draw into this and play it reliably, and that can be your entire strategy. Also, people can pop like attack pots on the turn that this gets played. Like, basically just one shot the boss. Just disgusting card. This is like probably better than flanking. One, because everyone can see it, right? You have more chances at seeing this unless you're running all silence, basically. It is rare, but you see it in shops, and there's a lot of ways to see colorless cards, especially from card gen with like Regent or whatever. But triple damage is just absolutely absurd. I think overall that's worth more than playing flanking for 1, playing triple damage for 3. I think just like the damage increase is just better than the reduced cost of flanking. Like flanking is less output, knockdown's more expensive, but I don't care about paying the energy cost because when I play this energy cost, I don't have to block, the fight ends. And that's the nice thing about this expensive kind of card is I don't have other requirements to do on my turn. Like if I played single player and I had a card that said knockdown, next turn the enemy takes triple damage, it's still worth it. But on the turn I played, I'm taking like 30 to my face. And in multiplayer, you're not taking that damage. You're just ending the fight immediately, and that's just disgusting. Yeah, really, really gross card. Next up, we have Lift. 1 energy, give another player 11 block. So this is sort of strange in a way that I don't often want to pay 1 energy to give someone else block because it means I'm probably not meeting block requirements, right? If I'm picking this card, it means that I'm blocking really well. And then hopefully you're doing something else with your energy other than blocking for someone else. Like, yes, you do get to pick and it covers someone's brick. It's just okay. It's not unfairly statted like a lot of these other cards. Again, Beacon of Hope, way better than this, right? This, way better. Like, anything that scales multiple people at once, way, way better. This card is just not unfair. It's a very fair card, but a lot of characters, like, if you just play this in single player, 1 energy gain 11 blocks, pretty decent card. But compared to these, like, there's nothing comparable to knockdown in single player, okay? Like, the ceiling for multiplayer cards is so much higher that we're comparing them to the absolute broken, busted stuff, and it just doesn't meet that. It's very much like a kind of a B tier card for me. I think the biggest problem is that it makes it harder for you to block on that turn, so you're probably just saying, like, instead of another person bricking, I'm bricking, which is not great, right? You don't want to like necessarily have trade-offs. You want like unfair, everyone gets an advantage, not just like one person gets an advantage. Okay, let's go ahead and skip the next card and move to the card after it because I think it's a very fair comparison to Lift, which is Rally, which has 2 energy. All players gain 12 block. This upgrades to 17, I want to say, or like 15, I think. Just disgusting. Just completely disgusting. This is an unfair version of the previous card, okay? You get 12 block. So this is a really good block card for you, but also just blocks for everyone. Just crazy front load block card. I think this is very easily S tier. Like every time I've had this, it just says 2 energy block 48. Okay. And if you upgrade it, it's like way more. I don't remember the exact number. It's either 60 or like 72 or whatever the hell it is. Just a disgusting number, right? Like, like just not at all remotely fair, and it doesn't even exhaust. Like you can loop this, so this can be someone's entire block engine, and if you have any dexterity to scale this, it scales everyone's block, on top of the upgrade just being really, really absurd, right? So again, when you have cards like this that are just really overstated for you and don't make you sandbag and also help the team, they're just insanely good. If you have Beacon of Hope with this, it's even better. Everyone else blocks 18, you still block 12. Like it still works for you. Really, really, really gross. I don't think I have to explain much more behind this, but I think you're seeing the pattern of just these like, if they work for everyone cards, they're probably pretty good unless they're just like kind of understated. Again, compare this to Legion of Bone. This says everyone blocks 6, exhaust. This is everyone block 12, don't exhaust. Which, yeah, just not a fair comparison, right? At all. Like, and the upgrade's way better as well. Like, just kind of crazy. I think the way you can evaluate Spire cards has always been just turning them into numbers. And when you read a card that says 2 energy block 48, it's not hard to understand why that's really broken. Or everyone deals triple damage, like have 9 players doing damage. That's not okay. Okay. Mimic. 1 energy, gain block equal to the block on another player, exhaust. This is essentially a block card that can read like block the highest amount that your team can block. Which is often like 15 or 20 block for 1 energy. So as a selfish card, very, very good. Not anywhere close to something like Rally or a Beacon of Hope or whatever in terms of actually scaling the team. But just as a front-loaded block card for you, this is basically always going to block 15 or 20 because someone's going to be over blocking or like didn't draw attacks or whatever and can do that, right? Or has dedicated their deck to trying to do that. Like really easy card to just kind of pick up and slam in the deck. I think this is like probably bottom of A tier here along these other cards that are just really strong effects for 1 player. If you just read a card that said, again, deal block for 15, block for 20, that's a very good card for 1 energy, right? very, very, very solid. Just not quite on the level of the absolute broken stuff. And I think like in single player, when you're looking at the S tier of cards, you're not like, wow, these cards are the most insane thing ever. Sometimes like I don't see Noxious Fumes in S tier in a tier listing go like, wow, that is completely broken. Like I don't think Fumes is completely broken. All of these cards are completely broken. Okay, just the ceiling on multiplayer, again, I want to reiterate, is so much higher. It's just not acceptable how different it is necessarily. Okay, next up we have tag team. 2 energy, deal 11 damage. The next attack another player plays on the enemy is played an extra time. This essentially says 2 energy, deal 11 plus the highest amount of damage that a teammate can do with coordination. With Vuln, it's a lot better, right? But copy the best attack from 3 other players that turn. That's pretty good. Like 11 damage for 2 is not even like a horrible rate on its own, but this often just reads like 2 energy deal 30 or 40, especially like if people have really expensive stuff. And yeah, it does last over turns, so you can use it with the hammer time swords that everyone has, right? Or just the regent player has a big sword and you copy that. Like it works with a lot of stuff. If you just have like any good attacks, an uppercut, for example, like so many things. Again, just turn this into numbers. 2 energy, deal 35, vuln, weak the enemy twice. It's like super uppercut, or like a pommel strike, or whatever. Like you've got so many things. Like even just copying a card that's like a vanilla deal 20 damage makes this deal 31. So no matter what, like that is a crazy amount of output. It's not necessarily the same as gang up, right? But you could copy a gang up. Like I think it's harder to get to work than gang up because it does require someone to have like a good attack. But even if you're just copying like a kind of middling big attack, even if it's like the Ironclad card that's like 18 damage, exhaust a random card in your hand, or like someone's Pounce that deals 14, that's still really strong. Like no upgrades deal 25, kind of good. And a lot of attacks do more than just damage. Like you can do like generating orbs, or applying weakness, or applying vuln. You've got a lot of other effects that are really strong. Draw cards, right? Meta scaling. It gets really broken with coordination. It just requires people to not just like be blitzing out their cards. And I do think that that's probably how most people are playing multiplayer at this point, like just shit posting with their friends, which is fine. I have nothing against that. I think that's probably how the game is meant to be played, really. But if you are trying to sweat, the total output on this card is really high. This is like probably close to gang up. I wouldn't say it's quite gang up, but it's just a really good front-loaded damage card. I'll put it underneath sneaky, I think, in like sort of middle of A. Okay. Yeah, not a ton of multiplayer cards, but we did talk about them for quite a while. But yeah, just overall, I think like you kind of have to look at the multiplayer cards as some of these are completely unfair. And so when we're comparing them to something like tag team, that's maybe a bit more fair. But like in single player, if you had something like this, it would be very strong. And also just with the way multiplayer works, where people often are going to have combo pieces to work with your stuff, it's a lot easier to line this sort of thing up, which also bumps it up. Like there's a lot of considerations going into why certain things are placed the way they are. But for the most part, you can see that this is a very top-sided or lopsided tier list, like on the top end. The overall power level of multiplayer cards is just really high, which contributes in part to why multiplayer is easier than single player, but is not the full picture. And again, I will be making a guide to go over a lot of the big evaluation differences between single player and multiplayer, instead of doing individual tier lists for multiplayer on every character, because I don't think every card changes really that much. There's only some that change a lot. Like we have just a handful of things we need to go over, and then probably a lot of the core concepts and ideas that will make multiplayer easier, but this should be a good launching point, at least for if you see this, just click it and you probably win. Anything in S tier is just absurdly overstated. I'm debating on moving hammer time up to S, to be honest. I think it can. It just needs the Regent player to also be forging a lot, which is maybe an extra hoop to jump through, so maybe it's not quite as broken. But yeah, really, really absurd. I think like just looking at these cards, even the bad ones are just kind of statted really nicely, like heavily, quote unquote bad. But like in single player, if you have a card that's like I don't know, lose 1 HP, gain like 11, 10 block or whatever, that's very strong. Or this, gain 11 block, very strong block common. There's a lot of things that just are very strong in single player, but because of how top ended this is, we have to bump stuff down. But in general, most everything is just very powerful. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. I think that's it for this YouTube video, but again, stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you guys next time. Okay. How does everyone feel? I like yapped for longer about this than I thought. But it's very cool. Like multiplayer is interesting for sure. I think it's not that hard, so there's no reason to really optimize super heavily, but it is cool. And that definitely means something, you know? Oh, a whole team Trog card. There is. Ah. No, you're right. It's huddle up, right? Good shout. Let me do that really quick. Is there anything else I'm missing? Anyone else know? Think you at some point make a tier list for single player cards that have to be reevaluated? I am doing that. It's gonna be more PowerPoint style than like tier list, but I will try to remember to upload VODs. I have forgotten to do it a lot. I need to do it, but yeah. Okay, sorry to Asuki, but I was told that I forgot to include huddle up. Which if you compare it to a lot of the really broken stuff, is pretty comparable. Again, this is like saying 1 energy, all players draw 2 cards, exhaust. Basically reads 1 energy, everyone draw 8. And this upgrades to draw 3 cards, so draw 12. Very, very strong acceleration piece. It's essentially just on demand Glimpse Beyond, because it draws like the same amount, kind of. It's like it's comparable, even though this is like needs the upgrade to be better. It's comparable. Like you have to upgrade huddle up, so I don't think it's as good. Probably at the bottom of S tier, but letting all the other players draw into their combo pieces to line up their stuff is really powerful, especially when you have really broken combos like knock down into more attacks. Like, because the combo potential is so much higher in multiplayer, drawing for everyone is even better than it would be normally. So if that changes, maybe it gets dropped down, but I don't care that this says exhaust on it. It doesn't need to be reusable. Like, you play this and basically everyone's deck functions way better and you just win immediately. Not a whole lot to say about this. I think just a really, really good acceleration piece. Not a super like interesting card, just like, very overstated and broken. Okay. We did it. I think that's it. Right? I just huddle up to ruin my friend's grand finale. Damn. There's a kink there that I was gonna make a joke. Okay, I won't do that. Defect is fine. All the characters are fine, like completely fine. They're all kind of just broken. Like, just multiplayer itself is just easier. Single player is the hardest mode. Duos is probably second hardest. Duos is definitely easier than single player by quite a bit. Again, I went over this earlier, but I think if you're not feeling that, you're probably just not abusing multiplayer and what makes it broken in a way that will make it feel easier, but I will make that guide to hopefully help that problem. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to work on that multiplayer guide outside of stream, clearly. But at least we have that for Mobalytics and the website. And now we can try to play some Silent. Yeah, it's fine. I have no problem with multiplayer being easier. I really don't. I'm not going to be upset that multiplayer is like not hard. Like, I don't care. We can yap a little bit first. There's a tier list for character synergies in multiplayer. I mean, you just don't need like let's say you have two defects together, like you don't need to have vuln scaling or weak like the enemies don't scale exponentially really. So if you're just doing the same thing that you're doing in single player, you just have another person to cover your variance. And you get that really broken multiplayer cards. So like I don't see how it could possibly be harder than single player basically. Like there's some really broken exponential scaling with like Molten Fist and stuff. I mean, it's fine, right? Defect still has access to Vuln to help. So, like, I don't know. Ironclad doesn't need to do that. Again, if you just play like you're playing a single player on both characters and you ignore each other's existence and you randomly get a rally, that's broken. Like, what makes multiplayer really broken and easy is not the character, like, synergies working together. It's that you have someone that, like, is, if you brick, they probably didn't brick. Because now you need like both people to brick at the same time and also to not have potions between each other to cover each other's like bad turns. Like if you have a block pot, you're twice as likely, first of all, to have a block pot in the first place. You have twice the amount of potion slots to cover brick turns. And you don't even need to have it because your teammate can have it. And you also can die. Yeah. So it's just not remotely comparable to single player. Like, it is so much easier just because of the variance and nothing to do with cross-class synergies or anything. In two players, for sure easier. I played a lot of duos too. I played a lot of multiplayer now. I will for sure say it's easier than single player by a lot. It's not by a little, it's by a lot. Like if you're playing A10 single player, you should not be winning more than A10 multi ever. Like two players is still very broken if you are doing the stuff to make multiplayer broken. It just takes a little bit more coordination. I think there's more information overload and people can't like track other people's decks as well. But I think like when you have, for example, two good players playing, like me and Open playing together or whatever, we both know what's in each other's decks. So we're like playing around what the other person has and also like what their potions are. But if you're not like directly looking at it, maybe you just don't remember that someone has a block pot to cover your bad turn, or they're not holding it, or they're not very good as a player. Like there's a lot of things that can happen, right? But if you're just like two even skilled players, like playing together, like same skill level, if you just cloned yourself, you should win more than you do in single player. Well, Ironclad is straightforward. I think there's something to be said about having straightforward, but that doesn't speak to power level. Ironclad is easy in multiplayer because it's easy to force a thing, and it's very simple for everyone to just do what we did in the speedrun and just click all the Vuln cards and do nothing else. But you don't do that on Defect. So Defect doesn't have a straightforward way of winning. You just play it like a normal Defect run with an extra person to cover your bad turns. So there's a very big difference between ease of access and power level. And I'm strictly talking power level. But if you're talking like ease of play, then yeah, Defect is probably the hardest in multiplayer. But I'm mostly comparing to single player, and single player is just a lot harder than both.
Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break here and then let's get into a run. Be right back.
Okay, hello, we're back. What's a defect is the weakest character in Duo? It just doesn't, like, I don't know. Again, it just doesn't matter. You don't need to do the broken cross-class synergies at all to still have like 100% win rate. Flip each other video and enjoyed it a lot. Glad to see it. That was a lot of fun. I think Jan is like, dude, that guy is so smart. It's just crazy. Imagine a soul link with him. Dude, I'd be so down. Wait, maybe I should. I think he probably just wants to play PK, and I'm playing PK too, so I don't know if it's really any different. If you squint, this is a Nuzlocke. No, it's true. I mean, I think I'm doing pretty good in PK, low key. I mean, I'm in Wake Split, and I didn't really expect to get there. There's been a few clauses for like bugs that I just didn't know about. But outside of that, like, been pretty it's been a lot of fun to just like cook lines. I think as I understand the AI more, the game is way more fun. The most frustrating thing about playing PK for me is just not understanding what the AI can do. Like, there's just some random bugs that aren't listed well, not listed like on the AI explanations or like what the enemy's supposed to do, and they just bug out and do something wrong. Like, that's not great. Oh, did I not have the pridewithfriends command on YouTube Network? One sec. Wait. Let me grab that. Also, one of my lights burnt out, and also the overhead light doesn't work right now because the breaker keeps flipping, so it's just kind of dark in here. It should work. Yeah, it should work. This is the donation link. I will just tell you the short of it. But we're doing our yearly fundraiser. So every year we've done Pride with Friends for the past like 2 years. So this is the third year, I want to say, maybe fourth. But working with a charity, and we're basically just doing a fundraising drive for this whole month. So we were working with mermaids this year. But there will be a whole event at the end of the month that a lot of streamers are going to be participating in. Like a more kind of involved weekend with like planned events and more of a mainstream and like a schedule. And I should be hosting something. I think Frost Prime is going to be hosting something maybe with me. We'll see. I don't know. Gen 4 AI is so bad. I got too used to run and bun because I got a lot of people telling me I would enjoy run and bun. But I think people, like viewers, are less interested in watching run and bun, and I don't think I would play a Nuzlocke without having at least some people like in chat for it. Like, it's just not, I don't really want to play it to like after stream, like off stream, you know. It's fun because there's like community to it. People get like emotionally attached to the run. Well, PK is just hype right now. Like, and I think there's like something true about that, but whenever I switch to PK, I get like a tenth of the viewers, you know? Maybe not on Twitch. On Twitch, like I have like, I guess it's where like a lot of the Nuzlocke community is, but there's a lot of like people that only watch when I play PK and a lot of people that only watch Spire that leave. On YouTube, I think like no one is finding me for PK, so I get like, I don't know, like 30 viewers after a little bit or whatever. Like PK is a very different experience, I think, or like watching a Nuzlocke is a very different experience than watching like a Spire run. EK lover. Yeah, I don't know how run and bun AI works. I think that it sees like damage rolls, right? And Gen 4 AI doesn't see damage rolls, it just sees the max roll. But I've learned a lot about Gen 4 AI. It's just like when you're getting into a new Nuzlocke, you have to understand the AI to even be able to play. And it's really hard to understand Gen 4 AI. Like there's so many random ass exceptions to everything. And so many bugs. Okay. Let's do silence over explained. Okay, humidifier basically never. We can sort of write that off unless like the other options were complete trash, but I want some immediate power and this is none. Paperweight's pretty much always good. Tress is good only in specific paths, as in like no shop and we need to take that path. But usually I want the early shop. The map looks a little weird. So there is one idea here, which is take early store into a lot of fires and then just get a ton of upgrades and you still get 2 elites like this. Which would kind of rule out Silken Tress. The Tress path would be something like this. To like avoid the advanced hallways, to have only 3 easy pools, and then go into like this. But it's not super easy, I think, to do that path. If the glam card bricks or we just don't see good stuff for this elite, it's like we can sort of just die. Fortunately, this is underdog, so I could probably be a lot more aggressive. I think overall underdogs kills you a lot less than overgrowth. And even this right side path doesn't look like complete nonsense. This provides a bit more safety before the elites with like the fires being front loaded. Does make it so that your upgrades are probably going on less good stuff because you have more time to see cards and I can upgrade more cards here and we're 1 less fire. This is definitely a safer path. We could click paperweight and just get info on how the card is. If it's like a late game thing, I could take the safer path. If it's like a strong early card, then there's no reason why we can't just go left here and get all the upgrades. And maybe it's a good card to upgrade as well, but I think Silken Tress is probably never here. Okay. So finesse before this patch would have been like basically always positive. I think at underdogs it is definitely positive. This is not going to harm me until exactly the Dorito in Act 2 and also against the Aeon Glass. But overall, it's just a way better card than Restlessness, so I just click it. And I'm not going to skip that just because of those downsides. It's going to be strong enough for basically the entire section of the game that matters. And we will solve Aeon Glass in a different way. I think the reason why, and this is being recorded before patch notes drop, tomorrow actually, and I expect Aeon Glass nerfs. Hopefully they're not too heavy-handed, so a lot of these concepts will still apply, but basically with Aeon Glass in the game now and the Dorito in the game, I am going to be playing with those in mind the entire run since they are big obstacles to overcome. Okay, now the only idea is, do we take the 3 elite path with this, or do I still take my early shop? I still think I take my early shop, and with finesse, I'm good in hallways. And when I am good in hallways, I do like to farm them to see more cards, because I would like to see cards before all these upgrades, and probably just go for 3 upgrades if we can. Finesse should save quite a bit of HP in these easy pools here, because like something like this, right? It just converts to 1 extra strike instead of having to play a defend here. which gets us out of the fight faster, and that is most of the time going to just save a lot of HP. We can take 1 to not have this curse in. I think overall, I'm not going to care as much about the curse. Mostly because this finesse exists. It can like help have something to do with our energy or draw past it. And you can see having that extra strike on turn 1 saves 2 there. Okay. In Overgrowth, this is almost always dagger throw, I think. In Underdogs, I think I can greed taking the Acro. So like Acro is not the best card on the screen for immediate reasons, right? Like drawing now doesn't really convert to much. It is slightly better with finesse because drawing into finesse converts into block, and drawing into neutralize is always good, and that's just in your starter deck. But because it's Underdogs and because I have this early shop to help cover some early game risk, I'm gonna click this. Otherwise, both of these are acceptable to click. They are like fine cards, but Acro is gonna be the best card in the end game, and not even end game, but even mid game, right? Okay, not much to talk about here. Just going to block as much as I can. And we will reevaluate that if that changes. Here, we can think about playing Survivor to shuffle in cards, so I don't just have no block in here. But I think what I'm going to do is strike into finesse, because if I draw strike here, I can play it. Newt is also fine because it extends weakness, but most time doesn't matter too much. Yeah, and exactly. Unless we draw into Acro and do whatever, but this is a good turn to draw all this. Next turn we could get destroyed if the Acro doesn't find like weakness or block or something. Luckily top deck finesse into neutralize, and now we can probably meet block check here. We can. So I'm allowed to do this. I don't want to take any damage here. We don't need to rush. This turn I will take damage, but I will full block and only take 1. Underdog just doesn't kill you and rewards you for blocking. And when my draw converts into block, like on the finesse, I don't need to care as much about taking early damage. I can take kind of a later game card. This is probably just leading strike. Skewer, I don't have a lot of energy because I'm going to be spending energy on like Acro to cycle my finesse and my neutralize, right? So I want kind of like a cheaper card. This is only really good if I have like a bunch of energy or I don't have any draw and need dense damage cards. In Overgrowth, I maybe would consider that, but I think Leading Strike is just a very good card in general. This is just a very high damage output card. Like 1 energy deal 11 is a lot on silent and works with a lot of synergies. Like I see a Shiv card here, not this one, but like ones that buff damage output. It's really good. Phantom Blades or something. That being said, we really can consider Infinite Blades here to help solve a lot of fights, and we can just sort of sit around blocking. One idea would be to just play Acro to cycle into the finesse, right? Like previously mentioned, and just block every turn consistently, draw your neutralize. And basically you can spend all your energy on doing block because you have the shivs chipping in every turn. And I think it's less important that I have AoE in Underdogs as it is just being able to block. On the other hand, there's another really good option here, which is the bomb to basically solve the eels and to give us boss damage. So we can sort of like block with finesse and like weakness, right? This sort of same idea of like Acro cycling these 2 cards, but now I have a lot of damage for like 2 energy, but I plan on sitting around in fights for a long time anyway, so I don't care as much about this being delayed damage. It doesn't need to happen now. I can sit around and block. So we can take that as well. I don't think going for like full sly sort of packages really works that well against Aeon Glass, but I think the bomb looks really solid here. Infinite Blades is also pretty good. I think I'm going to take the bomb. It seems stronger now. And we already have a Shiv card to function. I can already figure out and work with a lot of the Shiv powers. Infinite Blades is not like the first Shiv card, which would open a lot of those cards to be good, but they're already kind of open. So yeah, I think the bomb is probably better here. Pinpoint is interesting, yeah. Pinpoint is quite interesting with the finesse and the Acro. I think one thing about this is later in the game, it's not going to be nearly as good, and it's not AoE, so it's not like solving the eels. And the bomb plays well with Radiant Tincture as well. I think the bomb is just really good in Spire 2. In Spire 1, it was not nearly as good, but in this game, it's just a lot of output. So for example, right, we can play like Leading Strike ideas here instead of playing the bomb, because our next turn block doesn't look very good, right? You could slam the bomb, but it's probably better to just try and kill left here, I want to say. Because next turn I would probably not draw a full block. Usually you draw 2 blocks in this hand. The average case is like 2 defense, 2 strikes, and then one of these, right? I don't think pinpoint's wrong. You're just evaluating something differently. I think the bomb is figuring out a couple fights that I care more about. Also is really good into the Decimillipede next act as well. So if we do leading strike, strike, do 17, and this is dead to 1 strike next turn. That seems pretty good. Just block, doesn't matter if you play Survivor or Defend there, whatever. Just don't discard the Ascender's Bane. And yeah, this is exactly the kind of hand that we would have taken 2, basically. I will block the 1 here, and then next turn we hope to draw into block, but this is totally fine. Basically, like, we would have taken 1 here, but now I take 0 because I drew into defend. So yeah, pretty important to take your time, even in easy pools, to make sure you don't get completely owned. Prepared to do this cycling idea with like the finesse. We would want an upgrade on that, but again, we have this path with a lot of upgrades, so I'm allowed to take upgrade debt here. My upgrade debt is really like neutralize and then prepared in that case. We can also take precise cut, but I don't mind this idea of like cycling the bomb. We pay like a little bit of, or play like 0 energy draw cards to get into the bomb a lot and just loop that for damage against the boss. Could take also precise cut, but it's a little worse with acrobatics. Because we draw into precise cut and it doesn't deal as much. It's not like bad. It's still 0 energy damage, but yeah, I don't mind, I think, taking prepared here. I think I'm allowed to be greedier because it's underdogs. And Overgrowth, I'm already picking a lot more damage. Akar can miss the bomb here. Which I don't really want to do. Let's go ahead and weaken this guy. And probably just full block. And put damage on this guy since the threshold works out nicely for us of having it be 2 strikes. Yeah, and we will take a little bit here. Definitely worth just killing. We can draw a bit to shuffle out these cards. It's not like they're like terrible or anything, but not amazing for sure. We don't necessarily need to play the bomb to keep this fight under control. Like, for example, here, right? We can keep this fight under control by doing this. Here, I don't think I'm going to play Acro. The only thing it converts into is block or draw and neutralize, and all those things seem good next turn. Yeah, we made a little bit of progress in this fight, not a lot, but a little bit. And now we can play the bomb and kind of just block, I think. Even though we will be frail, but... Okay, not a great turn. But again, the bomb will get us out of this here. Don't even need to play cards, but it's kind of fun too. Pounce bomb is pretty legit. Yeah, pretty legit here. Just a little bit more damage. You can see like in this sort of fight like that we want a little bit of damage to kind of keep fights under control. And with Volnpot, that actually is working nicely. This is recently buffed as well. Running us through lead, of course. Bomb on turn 1 with Pounce. Not that it really means anything, but we can do something like this. A bomb, of course, and we just block here and allow the bomb to kill. We're just guaranteed out of this fight, but it's basically just how much can we block. Maybe not much. Leading strike, 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 I don't believe is killing without Volnpot, but I'm not willing to Volnpot, I think, for just 8. We can just do this, and we end turn. Get out of here. It's a pretty painless elite here. Captain's Wheel is excellent with the bomb. Lets us sit around. Here's a pinpoint for free. With Pounce, it's kind of performing a similar role. I don't think we necessarily need just like damage like that. Bouncing Flask with Captain's Wheel is a way of converting our like excess block into damage, and is good boss damage. Works with Pounce nicely, so we can have something like this. I didn't really pick Bouncing Flask very much, but I also think like against Anglass, you need to strip Artifact, and this is doing a really good job of that, and also is important in that boss for pushing damage, I think. So I think I will click it. We have this and Captain's Wheel to help support it, and the Pounce as well. Okay. With this Fire Path, I think I'm allowed to take the Spoils map here. And we get power next act. Early act 2 could be kind of rough, but Captain's Wheel is doing a lot there. And I have 2 potion slots. Obviously, I want to use those. Okay. Neutralize upgrade is really important here, and I'm going to upgrade Prepared. And then we maybe rest depending on what happens here. I don't want to rest yet in case I got like a Regal Pillow or something from there. And I also might not need to, depending on how much this Captain's Wheel saves. I think 25 is perfectly serviceable for the Elite with Neutralize upgrade. We'll see how the hallway goes. If we take damage there, then we can think. But Prepared should help us draw into the Neutralize to keep permanent weakness, basically. Okay, if we don't draw into the bomb, which we did not here, or Pounce, we might need to think a bit. Let's play this and see where it goes. It's pretty good. Neutralize on the back guy since he hits for more on turn 2. And then we put all the damage here. I don't think we need to Vuln Pot with the poison here. Like Strike will kill and also Pounce kills or whatever. Actually, I got those mixed up. That's my bad. But yeah, shouldn't matter. Usually we're gonna kill this guy anyways, so. Here's Captain's Wheel. We can play Bomb. I think we shuffle all this out though, because the Spoils map redraw is really bad. And probably we're just killing this guy with strikes and like playing physical damage here and not waiting. We want to open the kill next turn instead of having to wait 2 more turns. Fortunately, it doesn't happen, but we also don't take damage, so not a big deal at all. Slice, Ricochet, Deflect. Could see wanting to take Ricochet with like the Prepared and the Acro. I am a little bit worried about gunking up the deck too much to not reliably line up any combos. Like right now we're doing Pounce into kind of expensive skills. And the second we start trying to do also Sly stuff, we're going to make both parts worse. I don't think we necessarily need Ricochet damage. I kind of just want block. Deflect I don't think is as good as taking like a Untouchable here, even. I don't always play this slow. It kind of depends. Just trying to walk through all my decisions here. Maybe do a YouTube video, you know? But I usually mark it in the title if I'm trying to do this, so people know. Sometimes I'm just zooming, but at least now with this current patch, the game is a lot more interesting to try and figure out. Because I'm still learning, so I'm just trying ideas right now, and at least vocalizing why I'm trying stuff is important. On previous patches, when like Aeon Glass wasn't in the game, it wasn't really that interesting, I think. Or I didn't need to explain what I was doing, because every run was kind of just like block. And now I have to try a bit harder to like try and solve the game, because I think there's a lot of risk now with how you have to play. I think I'm going to skip here. I don't want to bloat the deck out and ruin any of the combos. Here would be, maybe this is Advanced Hallway. And we have Skulking Colony, but we have Neutralize and decent damage, and also Captain's Wheel, and also Terror Eel, but we also have Captain's Wheel. So first 2 turns could brick, but usually there's no way with like Ring of the Snake, right? So I think we just upgrade maybe Bouncing Flask here. Elite fights are just underdogs in general is just a lot easier most of the time. Pounce upgrade is also very solid, probably better early. It's this latest patch that did this change. It's much more important now to like try and kill quickly. Bouncing Flask is really a boss damage upgrade, which like I will need HP in this boss is the thing. So we could rest now. I don't think this upgrade does anything against like the elites. This is like sort of Terra Eel as well, but we can commit Vuln Pot. I think I'm gonna rest here actually. Okay, turn 1 Bouncing Flask is excellent. And we could Leading Strike to damage cap. I also don't mind playing Radiant Tincture here, because we can just block, but I don't love that we drew all of our block cards. I kind of want to, I think, do this to get out of here a bit earlier. It's weird that poison doesn't count for like any. Let's keep this Underspin in. Strike damage is not super relevant, but neither is the curse. Okay, we have Captain's Wheel here. Let's just play the bomb. Next turn, neutralize Finesse. I definitely don't want to draw into that right now because we're covered with Captain's Wheel here. This guy's guaranteed dead as long as we can block here, which both these cards are good at doing, right? Also just kill, right? Okay. Bellows with Ring of the Snake is very good. So we have really good turn 1 coverage with Venerable T-Set and Bellows and this, and then we have turn 3 coverage, and this can retain the upgraded cards as well. Snakebite, I already have Bouncing Flask. Can be more easily played on Captain's Wheel and also the T-Set turn. So it's something. I think with Bouncing Flask, I am not needing this. And also Predator, not needed with like Pounce, right? Okay, we'll take our HP here. Colorless cards are really, really strong. I think I always basically want to click this because I can skip as well. Flash of Steel with Finesse. Again, notably less good against a lot of the like changes like the Angloss or whatever. This is good against the Dorito. And works with T-Set, or sorry, Vulnerable Potion? What am I saying? Automation here with Acro in the deck and Prepared is definitely something, and kind of like an expensive deck. Like picking more draw and playing this, and also easier to play because of Captain's Wheel coverages and Bellows coverages. Definitely could be a thing for sure. We don't have any real like big block cards added, which I don't love, but I think probably Flash to have a little bit more support to get us to the point where we get the spoils map cashed out makes more sense. The automation is basically for later. Flash is like for now. We'll just take this then. With 40 HP here, I think I'm just upgrading. This could be wasted because of the Bellows upgrading the card anyways, but I think I want to get out of this fight like a lot faster. So let's just upgrade Bouncing Flask. I can't actually block like a big hit. This on turn 1 is excellent. Didn't hit any defense, unfortunately, except for this one, but at least all our block is in for this turn. We can try to get to like neutralize or something, because next turn I don't need to block, and this turn I do. Next turn I want to be doing a lot of damage. I think I aggro first here. Yeah, perfect. Just draw through all of the stuff. Because I want to do damage on this turn, and we were looking at a lot of block in the draw pile here. Unfortunately, not that much, of course, but at least Bouncing Flask is going in a bit in the bomb as well. Bouncing Flask this turn is excellent. Pounce as well. Neutralize here is a good draw. Should be fine. Can just face tank as long as we don't take a lot of damage here. Which maybe we do. The Stable Serum could help hold block cards if this is going to threaten us, which we can think about for sure. We do need actual defend cards. I think not yet, but it's dying this turn. And that's not a lot of block, you know, so I think the way this works, if I weaken now, it cleanses the weak, but I could be wrong on that.
If that's the case, then we're fine here.
But I'm pretty sure it does not keep the, it doesn't. Oh, maybe it changed. It loses the weak. I'm getting some mixed signals, guys. We're getting some mixed signals. I'm gonna stable serum then, just to be safe here. And I don't care about that pot really at all, so feel free to use it over.
Okay, here's a tracking card. I'm not really pushing damage with physical attacks, but we definitely can now with this. I could not kill with attacks there because I only had 11 damage in hand unless I use the neutralize, and then it would cleanse, right? Accelerant's only working in bouncing flask, which is kind of bad. I think this is just easy tracking, right? And we will make this work. The upgrade's also very good. And we have a lot of early turn support, but no like real long scaling in fights with our relics. So having long scaling in the form of powers makes a lot of sense. Okay, there is no shop after, which is fine. We will just have a big Act 3 shop, but we can spend all our gold here essentially. And not take a lot of risk inside of early Act 2 before this curse is out of our deck. Let's see what this is. Goopy Defends is enabling a lot of like looping these important cards. Relax is upgraded with Bellows and also like plays with Captain's Wheel and Venerable T-Set, which is nice. 2-cost deck, we can get a Dance Macabre from the event. Pale's Legion is not doing a whole lot with like doubling Finesse or whatever. I think this is probably just Goopy, and we would just make a smaller deck and try to like loop the big damage cards. It also increases the density of drawing neutralized, so we may not have to actually apply a lot of weakness. We can just sort of loop with like prepared Flash of Steel. Aeon Glass is going to be a big consideration because the statuses mess up this kind of deck very badly, but with tracking and being able to play Bouncing Flask like multiple times, maybe it's okay. And we will take some time. I'm not sure if I want to take this elite risk because the Goopy is kind of saying wait till later as well. Yeah, basically everything is saying like wait till later. We have a lot of stuff going for us later in this run. I don't think I want to take immediate short-term risk. So let's take a relatively safe path here, even though I'm not going to be stacking up a lot of Goopy stacks by going left here because I'm not taking a lot of hallways, but yeah, we can take our fights later. I think the boss will probably just die here. Okay, interesting. The bomb is not doing excellent here. This is literally all defense though. Should play Pounce, I think. And just not play Bomb. We drew all of our defense, except for one. That's really funny. This fight is not great. I think we will Bouncing Flask and focus on playing the defend for Goopy stacks, because the path is relatively safe here. So I will make meta progression at the cost of taking damage. Without playing Bouncing Flask, I think these guys like basically never die, so we kind of need to. Tracking sucks here. We don't need to like double our damage or whatever. That guy's dead next turn. We have neutralized for this. Okay, last Goopy Defend is great. And it's the upgraded one as well. So we full block here. Again, this is why I didn't want to take a whole lot of short-term risk because we can maybe try to get this defend. Nice. These fights can be kind of brutal with this deck. We have like an extra curse that we're going to get rid of, and we're going to have a lot of money. It's like no reason to risk it. Another Acro here to do this like looping deck idea. And the deck's going to be very small with 5 defense. Okay, this is basically going to be extremely strong and do everything that is not named Aeon Glass. So we need to solve that fight in some sort of way. But I think I take the other Acro here. Untouchable is very considerable there. Kill your shop. But 2 striker moves in this deck is very good. We're probably not going to have enough shops to take advantage of the removes. Not increasing in gold from this. So like remove one and then just remove at the shop is basically the same thing. With just some ability to be flexible in this store for short-term power, which is what I wanted. Yeah, it's probably about the same. We just have the option to not remove in case something's really broken, like we see a footwork or something. I think I will keep that option open. And if nothing is good, we just do the remove in the store and we are slightly more poor in the long run. But like this, for example, right? Very, very good. Yeah, definitely stronger than remove here, this fumes. Need to strip artifact off the enemy and need to push damage a lot in these bosses. This is also a very strong upgrade and can get deployed very easily with Goopy Defense protecting us while we deploy it. Not really doing stuff with this looping deck, but I think we have to just not fully rely on that, really. Yeah, probably just fumes over remove. And potions, not really needed. We have 2 pots. Not that the Vuln pot is that good, but it stacks with tracking. Okay. Need a lot of energy here. This guy will not take neutralize, so tracking does work, but I think just playing fumes is going to be better. Unfortunately, we can't stack the defense in this fight very easily. And we're going to be taking quite a bit of damage here. But I think I have to play the bouncing flask. That's like fine for him to take. Just exhausting the defense. Yeah, we're gonna take damage, right? Again, and still have maybe a potential hallway incoming as well. Think this is fine, right? He's guaranteed dead now. We just focus on living and doing our defense. Okay, nice. Oh, I guess I could have played Acro for this defend. My bad. We'll see if we would have drawn it. We would have. I thought I was out. Okay. No need for any of these. Flechettes is going to be really bad once the defense are removed from the deck. Hand trick may be acceptable at this point. Maybe. But I think I want my pounce back to help cheat out Bouncing Flask, and it's giving me something to do with the loop. Okay, random power is probably good. Almost all of them are fine. We can look at the compendium here to see 0 cost cards as well. So you can see what you can get out of this. You cannot get neutralized, but everything else is fair game. Even Grand Finale would work. You cannot get suppress, obviously. Adrenaline Expose, Cut Gamble, all these would be really excellent. As far as powers go, yeah, Footwork, Infinite Blades. Even Outbreak here is fine. Speedster's really bad. The rest of these are just really good. It's probably just the power. This deck can Finale, but Aeon Glass really doesn't like that. We probably can do it fast enough that it would die, but... Okay, that's not like one of the better ones, but it's acceptable. We can make tracking playable, but we're not really scaling with tracking a ton right now. It is good with Pounce. It needs to be played. Noxious Fumes is a really good upgrade. Probably tracking and Fumes are the biggest upgrades in this deck. See what this event is. Okay. Maybe we get Compact, or we click Ironclad and also get like Burning Pact or something, and then we can deal with statuses. Or get Second Wind or something, and then that's very broken. Yeah, and I don't want to work with like orbs or anything, so I think we just pick Clad. Armaments, kind of bellows. A little weird. Colossus, we don't have Vuln really, unless we get Vuln something else. Rage is like pretty interesting. Pax End with Shivs to activate it. That's a loot payoff. And Goopy Defense to activate it. That's really sick. Could Rage to generate block with this sort of looping idea. And like Flash and the Shivs. Seems really interesting. Defect cards is basically only Compact. Like everything else is not, or flat cannon. Those are the only like real things. Ironclad has way easier ways, like any targeted exhaust, any second wind. Yeah, ritual's pretty interesting as well to like use with all our draw. It's pretty cool. I do like it. It helps us get set up. And it exhausts. That's nice. I think for block, we can mostly solve with finesse. Finesse loop. But looping decks are kind of harder to do. Once again, kind of as described, they're a lot harder to do. Against Aeon Glass. Lantern is pretty good, actually. With extra card draw on turn 1. Okay. I think we can do this. Dorito, we will definitely like double pot. But we have Pax End and Bomb. So with HP, we probably are fine against the Decimillipede. And B guys should be very easy. I will rest here just so in case, you know. But I want to farm for sure. Okay, lots of extra energy here. Bomb is down. Let's play Flash first. Doesn't matter much on where. And just kind of block, I think. Fury defense are so crazy to just try and play powers. Fumes is not really needed, so we could try to get into Forgotten Ritual here. Or just draw another block card here, or weakness or whatever. Yeah, I can just block here. The Fumes is pretty unnecessary. It like works with Outbreak, but it's very slow. By the time we are doing that, then the bomb's already gone off and we won. We just need to do a little bit of damage to this guy. Okay. Here's Goopy into Forgotten Ritual. And maybe Pax End. Doesn't really matter. Next turn we win, so let's just play this. Yeah, very cool fight. And we get the Goopy defend, so I think we got all our side quests done here. Boom. And this is where, if you did not pick the bomb earlier, you're going to struggle a lot, right? But the bomb is answering a lot of fights that Silent doesn't like, that actually you have a hard time sitting around in. Like, the fights that do put a lot of pressure on you, the bomb is doing really well. The Knights fight, this fight, it's even decent in bosses as well. Untouchable's interesting. I don't think we need it. We do have, like, a need to solve block kind of in longer fights, but I don't think this is really good against Aeon Glass either. Vuln Pot definitely better than, or not better than Fire Pot here. And 44 HP is probably enough for the Dorito. I think we can just upgrade Noxious Fumes here. Start scaling boss damage. Okay. We have no whales, but we do have big defense. Acro before I play Neutralize here, just so I don't add crap to the deck. Before I draw. I still want to draw into real cards here. I don't think there's much of a reason to play this strike. I think we just sort of like chill and draw block. This guy's going to die to Fumes. Don't love this hand. On average, we draw at least one defend next turn, which is not actually good. I don't want to discard the statuses, though. Accent should be probably played here. I think it's worth enough damage to do it. Yeah, next turn doesn't look very good here. I want to draw these defenses again later, but like skipping my whole turn here, not great. We just have like no chance to draw. If I play like Tracking Flash of Steel next turn, which is not great. Unfortunately, it didn't come before this, but like if I play like 20 damage here with Fire Pot, I do like 16 plus 18. It's 34. 64. 84 damage. Not quite enough. Because that's 94. Okay, we might take a hit next turn then. A big one as well, so I just pass here. We try to draw into block. bomb is probably not being played here. I'm just trying to find defense. Okay, very nice. We got weakness as well, which covers this turn and next turn. And tracking here. Nice, Drew Dazed here. That's perfect. Can try to save Fire Pot here. This is just like dead. Tracking is a very silly card. Paper Crane is absurdly good. Absurdly good. And this is very easy skip. All of this is really bad in Aeon Glass, and that's kind of the only fight I'm really thinking about right now. Planisphere here is excellent. We easily block this guy with our very good very good Goopy defense here. Unfortunately, I drew 2 defense here, which I don't really want to play, but let's see. With Bouncing Flask, that goes in. We can sort of just draw a bit here. I played enough defense to activate Pax End here. So we can play everything in this hand. Could have saved the pounce to instead block a little bit more next turn, but I think we'll be fine with the Captain's Wheel. Kind of want to draw back into those Goopy defense here. It's like the main thing I'm trying to do right now. I actually don't want to hit this. We'll probably die next turn, but we can try to block it. Perfect. And no reason to stay around anymore. Okay, one more Bouncing Flask for the road. I would like more weakness. We have not really seen that at all. Bouncing Flask seems really bad here. I would click like a Reflex or something to help have a little bit more card draw. But I don't think Prepared is quite it. Needs the upgrade, which I think I'm allowed to do right now. This guy does add a bunch of statuses to my deck, so maybe I should just like res. I don't have like great weak chain if I have a bunch of statuses added in, so I probably would need to respect this guy a bit. Sucker Punch would definitely be clicked, yes. Just any weakness here. Okay, not a great turn. This is probably not going to work very well later, so we could just exhaust it. Definitely playing this. Definitely playing this. Question is, do I just get rid of it? I guess it can help me play the statuses later, but hopefully we don't have to worry about that. We'll keep it for now. Hopefully we're not going long in this fight. This activates Pax End. But yeah, a looping deck like this, maybe I needed to apply Poison Pot. I think I will now, even late. Because this kind of fight, we do need to get out of here fast because we run out of blocks. We have good front load block, and the idea was to solve the fight with a lot of damage. Pounce is not being played over playing powers here. To get out, but this guy messes with our damage, and that's kind of a bigger problem. We don't have good weak chain for Paper Crane. It's also a thing we are kind of relying on to block. For example, like, now that we've used all these, fight needs to end. Could have played that actually, but it's fine. We should be out of here. It's taking a little bit of damage, but it's okay. We used all our defense, I think. Malaise is excellent. Weakness. Here's some artifact strip, but we have okay artifact strip with the Bouncing Flask. Shadow Step is like never. We're not really doing physical damage all that much. We haven't really found stuff to scale the tracking very well. I think Malaise is like insanely good here with Paper Crane. And we have a lot of energy with the Lantern, also with T-Set, also with the Forgotten Ritual. Apparitions, more cards at Exhaust and Front Load Block. That's just extremely good. Could Ethereal copy Neutralize and Flash, and that's just infinite. If you copy Flash after exhausting, you just win. Or Paxan. That's very funny. Unfortunately, apps are just like really, really broken. I mean, it lets us save our Goopy Defends as well for later. It's just insane. We do have Anglass and Test Subject, which is probably the worst two bosses to have because scaling damage against Test Subject is kind of hard for us. Fortunately, we do get down into like a Paxan loop, and that's the main idea. But yeah, I think it's just easy apps here. And sometimes they're upgraded, which is really good. We can keep them around. I have a lot of gold here, so double shopping even makes sense if there is a path for it. There is. It involves going here and then picking and then getting here, which honestly this path looks pretty good anyways. We can get some extra upgrades like here if we want an extra fire or take an event. I think usually in Act 3 events I don't want for the most part. Okay, we just do some side questing. That's full block, play tracking, hit a guy. Not much to worry about here. Still have all our apps and Captain's Wheel incoming. Fortunately, this does not take 0, so I'm still taking HP loss here. I will fire pot you to not lose 4 max, I think. So I need to actually draw block cards against these guys. Just doing side quests here. All the side quests are in there, so let's not ruin that. Here's a leg sweep for more weakness. Here's also a reflex that works really nicely, but Anglass says no. This reflex is really strong. We do have Malaise now for more weakness, so the leg sweep is not as needed, but it is a very good block card to play and also gets cheated out with Pounce. This is a pretty hard decision, actually. I think the reflex is definitely not as good into Anglass, but is overall probably way better because it's just doing infinite stuff. It's more fun for sure. Okay. Ringing Triangle can hold apps that we would draw on turn 1 because they're upgraded with Bellows. So we can hold all our upgraded cards. It seems really strong. And Red Mask, Paper Crane, Artifact Strip for Anglass. Pretty good. I think probably both. Strike Remove, as we talked about last time, is very strong here because we're just doing looping stuff. So I think I will do this and then save money for the next store. I think second copy of Fumes is probably not good enough. We could also consider Draw Pot, but I think with the second store incoming, I want some money. Draw Pot would be help for the bosses, by the way. Remember that we are retaining this hand here. So all these cards are getting held. So we can play like the worst defend for hand space, I guess, and then hold all this. Be nice if I could hold all of these this turn. And apps stack across turns, and I have 2 turns of intangible here. I'm gonna play this. We can draw back into the other defends again, but I'll play the bomb, but I do want some weakness on this guy. We have neutralize next turn. Need to draw back into the defense next turn, and we take quite a bit here. I should draw before I play anything. I don't care about neutralize redraw here. That's full block. Should basically die, and we have an app as well. Let's play defend, and this to try and get goopy. We do get it. None of these do anything, I don't think. Okay, not ever giving Gambler's Brew here. That's like the most important potion like an entire game. So we get an uncommon skill here. Snakebite upgraded. To help push damage. And is very easily played with Goopy Defends. Dodge and roll, we have no actual decks. It's like significantly worse than just playing defense, and hopefully the fight ends fast enough. I think we just take Snakebite to end fights faster here. We could also just like loop the Bouncing Flask, but I don't necessarily mind just having like a bunch of poison cards here to like overscale damage against the glass. Now pound Snakebite here. Keep going. Again, we are retaining here. Very good to have this to just basically a couple turns of Wall-Eyed Plans is really, really strong. Can discard this Absence. We can block for an amount this turn. Could have also played App into Malaise, but like the side quest. Turn up guaranteed, so don't care about playing this one. Also, we are just out of here, but let's try to side quest if we have any defense left. We have one. Would you get it? That's it, I believe. Yep. Table Serum, pretty nice. Here's a Sucker Punch, don't need anymore because we have Malaise. Infinite Blades, at this point, we're not scaling like that anymore. Do we have enough upgrades to warrant going right here? I think Malaise upgrade is very good. Pax N upgrade is also good because that's double with tracking, so this is really like a 12 damage upgrade. Acro upgrades are solid. Reflex upgrades are very good. And we just don't want the events, I think. Okay, well, we got the free Pax N upgrade, so I can go like draw upgrades now. Or this upgrade. Just make sure we have weak on the enemy. You can also play that for 0 energy now. Okay. This fight can be annoying. I think we are very well equipped for it, though. Especially with something like App here. This turn we can still retain. Next turn we will not be. Need to just make this... Oh. I was gonna, like, show... Okay, whatever. You guys get what I was trying to do. It's fine. It shouldn't matter. Kind of funny. I guess I'd change that. It's playable now, but it doesn't do anything, right? Need to play on my defense, even though it's not correct, but... Should play the bomb here. I don't want to lose my QP defense. But here we are. App almost guaranteed here. Probably should have just played Pounce here, but that's alright. Maybe not even play Strike. Oh, I thought I played this for some reason. It's okay. They will all die, basically. Should have been switching damage because I already had the bomb going off, but that's okay. Playing a little sloppy now. Number defends. Scare, extra weakness. It's a loopable card, but I think we're just looping the neutralize now. Probably that means I need to rest for HP and need to not take damage here, but that should not be that hard. Can hold that technically for like tracking damage when we draw neutralize, but it doesn't really matter. So I can put Newt on the next guy. Not that it's going to matter very much probably, but fortunately taking, actually I lied, I'm taking 0. Or a Kyoko, thank you. Notable combo with apparitions. We could play Outbreak, but yes we can, sure. We'll give it its time in the sun. Act 3 elites in the bosses ask very different questions, so not necessarily. Could have a hard time, I think, in the bosses. Don't want this, I don't think. Yeah, Aeon Glass is still really, really scary, and Test Subject's not a joke either. Footwork is very good. Momentum, Sparkling Rouge, it's all really good.
Footwork is like working with finesse basically alone. But you kind of need to end fights like immediately, so maybe it's not actually that good. We could do like the dagger on
It's double upgrade basically, like on Flash of Steel or on Pax End. I think I would like one dex from here though, more than anything. So maybe even just a remove. I think this is just happening. Probably on Flash. Just a little bit of strength goes a long way here as well. Could see just removing strike too, and then buying something else instead of the one dex. Could also just go footwork. We just don't really have a lot of things that convert dex into output. Like if the fight doesn't end soon, we will die. We have apps to cover and we have goopy defense, but just don't really benefit that much from dex. I think we just make our deck better to do the looping thing, and the Aeon Glass we blow all of our resources to try and explode. I'll buy this just in case, but I don't think it's actually that needed. Watch this. Pounce? Snakebite. Still no well-led plans makes me pretty scared. Which is like, I don't know, it's just good, right? I like having runs where I don't know that I'm going to instantly win when I walk into the bosses, and that's what this run is. I don't feel safe. It's way more fun to play when you don't feel safe. Because this run is still very scary. Even though we have a lot of stuff going for us, it's not free by any means. As a finisher, we're really not playing that many attacks, and if we are playing that many attacks, it means we already exhausted down, and it's kind of winning already. If it blades against this guy, it's probably not it, right? And the loop deck against this guy should work. We'll see. Definitely resting here.
Okay, this is the scary fight by a lot. App on turn 1 is good. We just deploy powers, don't play leading strike, I think.
We can even think about Stable Serum like next turn. Could also play Reflex just to draw now. Because we're going to retain all the cards. The thing is, if it draws into apps, it's not good. So let's not. The footwork upgrade really doesn't matter that much, I don't think. No Bouncing Flask yet. We can try to draw into that. Okay. Yeah, if we can't get weakness, our damage is kind of neutered, and we have no poison early, so this is pretty horrifying. I could definitely see just like Gambler's Brew here. Pounce Reflex is still a lot of energy. 2 energy to do that. I think we just Gambler's Brew. We're not making any progress. I need to get my powers down. I will exhaust a card, probably. Neutralize is just free artifact strip, because when we Gamblers, you're going to draw everything. Okay. That's very good. That was kind of what we're looking for. We have Ab next turn and a lot of weakness. Probably don't need to retain. Just not worth playing anything, unless I just want to eat the Wither now while I'm intangible. Probably intangible next turn as well. Abs do affect Wither, they should. Could just malaise here. I also don't hate not playing malaise here and just playing tracking Snakebite. And next turn we have App. Need to just push damage like as much as we can. Have to apply poison to this guy, or we're gonna die. Don't need these goopy defends right now. It's probably still worth playing this. Probably not worth retaining this 1 defend, but it is pretty scary. I'm kind of down. This fight is like horrifying. Okay, here's a Pax End on the thing. The Snakebite. Need to push. Okay. Here's Flash of Steel Momentum. But again, this deck like really struggles here because of the looping punish. Can just malaise big time here. Crane should do a lot. We're gonna take a damage from a Wither here. Just 1 though. Bouncing Flask is a lot of damage, and we can discard Wither. And just take a little bit to our face. Can also acro into Groupie Defend and discard the Wither and shuffle it out. I don't want to shuffle out Bouncing Flask. Nah, I think I like the Goopy next turn. We just keep going with poison. Ow. Okay, just kind of can we live like a handful of more turns? Unfortunately, we drew all of our blocks on the same turn here. Definitely just gonna play this Bouncing Flask. Do I block 2? Probably. Because we drew all of our Goopy Defense there, so it's gonna make it hard, but I think it's gonna die in time. That should. Wither, unfortunately, goes before poison damage, so we could just get destroyed by Withers this turn. We do not. Okay, very lucky. Very fortunate. And also kill like that. Okay, yeah, that fight's not a joke. And you can see how much you have to respect it in your deck building for literally the entire run. Because this, on an old patch, never in my deck. This wasn't even good that run, but I need extra damage output. I need, like, this, even. So if you're really struggling with this guy, it's just something you have to be thinking about literally the entire run. It's very similar to, like, the Heart Inspire 1, where you have to have door syndrome, basically. Like, I like that Inspire, though. I think it's nice to always be having this, like, looming enemy that can, like, murder you at any turn, where, like, I use 2 pots here and, like, still get kind of owned. This fight's not a joke, but can often, more so than the other fight, be way easier for us. I should malaise here, I think. App's upgraded. I'm going to save that for later. Don't need to push damage as much here. We can sort of just double app. We block with Orichalcum, and then we have next turn covered as well, and then we have like 2 turns to kill, basically. Snakebite's better to play here. Next turn we have app most of the time, or a lot of Goopy defends. And Crane is really stupid. We always get Forgotten Ritual here. We do shuffle out a lot of our defense here, but just getting powers down is like most important thing. We will let it die to poison here so that I have another turn to like draw back into the stuff and like retain and play my powers and whatnot. This is a lot of Goopy defense in here, so let's just play the bomb. Don't play finesse. Crane is really stupid. What is new? I don't want any wounds here because once I exhaust down, if I have no statuses, I just win. You'll see basically like with tracking here that I push damage a lot and this momentum scaling. And this is why Goopy defense are so strong, where like you get to a point basically where they full block like every turn. And so you can just focus on entirely doing damage. Okay, next time we have 1 Goopy defend and a survivor. Should be fine. No weakness though, but we do have an acro. If I play reflex now and draw like those 2 things, I'm kind of unhappy. Weakness would be the most important thing to have here. But it's not like we're dying or something. And this phase doesn't add statuses. We're getting hit, which is the big downside. Next turn, only 1 block card. And no real way of activating reflex except for pounce into reflex, but we do have newt most of the time. Why did I discard Snakebite? Okay, don't check that. Yeah, and you can see Paper Crane. This, very insane. Hopefully we're okay here. Usually I think Pounce and a Snakebite is fine here. Could see need to do reflex or just hold it. A lot of draw, but we kind of need to find the Goopy defend and the newt. If I draw my defense now, it's pretty bad. I think we just play nothing here. We just chip at it a little bit. No reason to rush that, really. Okay. Neutralize. Are we dead here? We are, I believe. Yeah, because we bricked all our draw. Okay, really close. I think with slightly better micro, maybe in last fight I can like save like 8 health or something and be fine here. Obviously don't play perfectly, but you can see that the yeah, I'll probably still post this. I don't care if I lose or whatever, but this boss makes the game so much better. Like actually being forced to use all my resources and get kind of owned. It's really nice. I really, really like that. Like, this is probably the hardest combination of bosses to see here, and we have, like, no well-laid plans. With well-laid plans, we win. I think if I don't discard Snakebite on that one turn, that might actually be enough to win as well. I kind of just like playing quickly, but, like, 1 extra draw in that draw cycle is probably enough to win. Like, you don't brick your 1 block card, and then you're fine. But you can see how much closer the game is just because the existence of this boss. And it makes it so much more interesting to me. Outbreak was a transform, basically. It was like a random card put in the deck from an event, so not really. It's just like kind of random garbage. Maybe we can take like one dodge and roll. That might be enough. I think this run is, I mean, clearly it's like one card or one micro misplay from winning, right? Like one turn. So you can play slightly better, take a little bit more time, probably win from here. But I think the important thing is seeing the thought process. Yeah, the night fight as well, because I misplayed I misplayed the Pax End, trying to demonstrate that it wouldn't play, and it did, which was a change I forgot about. And probably if I don't do that or micro better in that fight, we don't take the damage, and then we're fine here, right? So it's very easy to see that you can win. It's not really important to demonstrate that I actually did. Like, I don't care. I don't mind if people see that I lose. Like, slight misplays happen, and you'll get punished for them. The thing I do enjoy is that you get punished for it a lot more because this guy is in the game, and I use 2 pots and still take 27 here. Maybe the leg sweep is better than the reflex, but the reflex is more fun. So yeah, you can probably pick leg sweep here and also be more fine just because you can have perma weak in this fight, and with Crane that's very important. But like lots of important things to think about in this run. Very cool. Even down to like not spending your double gold on the removes in Act 2 on the event. You can hold gold open for something broken, which was the fumes, right? Which was really good. Yeah. You can see the mistakes matter now. And that I really enjoy about this game now.
I assume that the Aeon Glass is nerfed on this upcoming patch, and that's really sad. But like I love that this game like actually forces me to think a lot more now, and that I get punished for misplays.
No, Paxen, the change is good. I just like forgot about it. I was gonna like show it's like I play Paxen and I like can't play it, but because I have Goopy defense, I was like gonna show it. You know what I'm saying? I was doing it all run, but like yeah, I just forgot that you could actually play this now. But that probably punishes me. Also, like misplacing damage in the night fight because of the bomb going off, like that I just like wasn't paying attention. That punished me. Handful of things. But again, very easy to point to a couple of mistakes and say that this run should have been a win if you play better. And again, this goes back to the thing that I was talking about yesterday, which was like, regardless of the game being like easy or not or hard, whatever, there's still not been runs in this game yet that I haven't been able to point to clear mistakes, which is both good and bad. Maybe it's a sign that I've gotten better at Spire and figuring out what went wrong, but it's very easy for me to figure out that a run should be able to win. And so theoretical win rate of this game should be very high if I'm never confused about why I lost. The second that I get confused about how I could have won, like I like fight Aeon Glass and I get destroyed, and I'm like, I don't think I saw anything to solve this. That's when I will start thinking that the theoretical win rate of the game maybe isn't as high. But currently, I've not been confused. But yeah, cool run. You can see how close it is though, right? It's tight. If you play like how I did, you lose. You need to make like a lot of good decisions, and I like that about this for sure. I really like that these bosses now force you to do that. I'm gonna keep saying that, but the game is just so much more interesting when the boss actually kills you for being stupid. And before, you weren't getting punished for this kind of misplay. Like, you could do that mistake and have to waste an upgrade and it wouldn't matter at all, and now it does. There were impossible seeds in Spire 1. There were like 2 out of like 4 quintillion. So saying there were impossible seeds in Spire 1 is true, but not really. Like, no one was finding those seeds. No one loads into a random seed and gets it. It's just so unlikely that every player like in the entire world could play like 30 runs a day and we would never find them. That's how unlikely it would be. I think that Queen should be buffed, yeah. For sure. I'm worried that Aeon Glass is going to get like a really big nerf tomorrow, but this has been the best patch of the entire game so far for me in terms of having to think and like feeling like there's a problem to solve. So I really hope it doesn't get gutted because it is like significantly more interesting, this game now, with Aeon Glass in it in its current state. Like, you can see how much I have to think about it the entire run. Like literally the entire run I'm thinking about it. It's kind of insane. One thing I would say is that the punch dagger didn't do a ton of damage. We didn't actually end up exhausting down like quickly enough. Maybe like 2 more removes and we're there, or like another acro upgrade and we're there. But I didn't get the acro upgrade because I misplayed. Like having +1 draw on this deck is a really big deal once you exhaust. If you count the real cards, like this is -6 cards right here, -7, -8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cards, kind of 16. So like this deck is like 15 cards big. So +1 draw, and this is kind of a fake card. So also a fake card. Both kind of fake cards, right? Also kind of a fake card. Lots of fake cards. The deck is basically like 12 cards, like real cards. Getting 1 remove there is like a 10% remove, right? That's insane. 1 draw is 10% more draw of your entire deck. So when the deck is this small, the incremental upgrades like that actually matter a lot, which is probably why I got punished. Yeah, I don't mind them like removing the Aeon Glass debuff, I think, the minus strength, minus dex thing. But I like the, like, everything else is just the same. I think the Wither Pressure is so cool. This boss was like so nothing before, and now it's really interesting. Fake card as in like it replaces itself as a cantrip. It doesn't cost energy to play and it draws. So you shouldn't really count it. Like it's not truly free against Aeon Glass, but essentially free. Anyways, yeah. Hope it was still enjoyable even though I lost. I don't really mind losing. Hopefully people don't think that I do. I actually don't care, but it's a lot of brain drain to do a run like this and yap about everything. It definitely doesn't make me play as good as I can, you know? You would think maybe it would, but, like, if I'm playing to try and maximize win rate, there's no way I'm explaining this much. It's just, you're devoting brain power to explaining instead of actually thinking about the game. I really hope that people don't freak out, because I think a lot of people had the same opinions about the door in terms of their initial knee-jerk reaction was, wow, this sucks. And on the last version of Door, I was like really kind of happy with it. I think it was like even too weak, but people were like, no way, this is the hardest boss. It's like, it's not anywhere close to the hardest. It's definitely the easiest. And their stats showed it was the easiest too. But people just like felt it was oppressive and it wasn't actually. And we don't need to be using the R slur in 2026. Let's not do that. That's a final warning now. This is how many status cards Aeon should add. 155 streak. Holy. That's huge. I don't know what I want to do right now. I could play another run. I also could work on that PowerPoint off stream. I have a lot to work on off stream, but I really like streaming more, which is, I mean, obvious, but sad. One more. Could also play PK. But that's like definitely not being productive. At least there's a lot of productivity today. We did the tier list and Silent Overexplained. Subreddit post turned from I hate Doormaker to I kind of miss Doormaker. Yeah, I think people realized it was like good. Adversity is like good in the game. You want to be challenged. You need to just build your deck with, like, this is the same as any, like, you're not just building a generic good deck. You're building a deck that answers problems in the game. If the game has no problems, then generic decks win, and then every run looks the same. When the decks need to be specialized to beat certain enemies, that's very interesting. That's what we had with the Heart. That's what we had with Spear and Shield. That's what we had with, like, Time Eater and Awaken 1. Inspire 1. You had so many fights that needed specific answers. Like, some people would be like, oh, Awaken 1 punishes me when I build a power deck. And it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be building a deck that has 8,000 powers in it with no answer to the Awaken 1. Like, just build a deck that can answer the Awaken 1, and then you can jam as many powers as you want. Yeah, you can add quote-unquote bad cards that are good into Aeon Glass to solve that fight, which is what I did in this run. You have to add crap. I mean, it's a fine-tuning thing, right? Like, you need to know how much garbage you need to add, but it feels like you do actually need to add a fair amount of stuff to answer that fight, because like I added like a lot of crap. Like the Bouncing Flask gets in, the Snakebite Plus gets in, and are those things actually going to be useful? I don't know. Yeah, Alt Axe would be really cool. Necro I played a while ago. I have not lost against Aeon Glass until just now. That was actually the first... Well, okay, I didn't actually lose to Aeon Glass, I guess, but I kind of lost to Aeon Glass because it burned a lot of my resources, but kind of lost to myself. And also to test subject. But yeah, I actually have not actually died to Aeon Glass yet. Not even on Necro. The Necro run, I just got like Sleight of Flesh and won, but I want to figure out how to solve Aeon Glass on Necro without Sleight of Flesh. Yeah, Bouncing Flask has a lot bigger of a niche now against the glass, for sure.
My brain's kind of cooked for another Overexplained. We did a big yap for the tier list too, so
I mean, of course it's a loss. Last run. I mean, I can see that I could have won, but it's definitely a loss. I'm not gonna like rewrite reality. Am I gonna say that the game tried to kill me that hard? No. I definitely had the tools to win, so it's on me. Act 2 bosses, I think Insatiable is probably the hardest by a lot. I haven't died to Act 2 boss in a long time, but Knowledge Demon can kill you if your deck is not super good. Crab is pretty easy. I think Crab is the easiest boss by a lot in that act. Under-explained run. I wonder what the guys are doing. What if we do multiplayer? Any speedrunners? Dude, I really want to get the sub 1130. There's a lot of Nuzlockers playing right now in the section of the game that I'm playing on that I also want to watch. I don't know where VM is tonight. He's not streaming. Fastest run is 1320. I don't know if they're removing Aeon. We don't know. No one knows. Favorite character's Regent. Just design-wise and how interesting it is, I think. Oh yeah, Wednesday's day off. Maybe he'll play PK. I should message him. Let me, any PK today? Yeah, maybe it's like a wind down kind of day. I think what I should do in the future is do like a more strict stream schedule. Like sort of like Baylor does and do like 2 runs or like 3 to 4 hour stream and then either go variety or end. I think that's like a very healthy way to do it. But my brain gets cooked after like 2 runs worth of time. Like 3 hours is where like my brain, I can't do like Overexplained runs anymore. Or like I could, but it's not going to be nearly as good. I definitely have a lot of work to do outside of stream today
that I should be doing. If you guys want the YouTube video, I gotta do work, you know, unfortunately. It's one or the other. Don't get both.
I don't think anyone's gonna want to watch me make a PowerPoint. I have not seen this video. I also don't agree with it, so I don't think I care, but I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Like, I just don't think it feels bad to play. So it's gonna be a lot of me disagreeing, and then it's gonna come off like me shitting on someone that I don't want to do. Yeah, 65 views. Why do I care about this? I don't know. Sorry. Let's get out of here. Okay. See ya. Bye, guys. I will do some work off of stream and hopefully get that video out.